Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 76 of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who are the powerhouse of the cell with me tonight?
Powerhouse Stefan JD.
RNA, Stuart Hughes.
And Ian Bauer. Don't feel bad. We do this on purpose.
Oh, great. Nobody ever knows. Neither. It all depends on Stefan, really. Like it all comes down to if Stefan says something, I have to think of something clever, and then the guest is always like, fuck.
Yeah, don't feel bad. It's on purpose.
I tried to make it as random as possible.
All right, and then
nice
before
improv every week.
Yeah, that's the point of it. Before we get too far, Stu, do you want to give me a quick drum roll? If you can. We have a winner, and the winner is for the contest nobody, because nobody entered, damn it.
I don't know why.
So actually, Jennifer entered when I did a hashtag giveaway, and I got a random automated email saying, "I saw you did a giveaway. Why don't you sign up?" So since you're not real, Jennifer, you do not win the contest. So I will be posting to Overblood probably by the time you're hearing this recording, giving away the stalker code. We will do more giveaways in the future, maybe for a game that people actually want for free. Because apparently.
It's weird. I don't get it. We did the giveaway. This isn't even a learning experience for us because I don't understand this at all. We did the giveaway next, and multiple people told us that they bought the game after they listened to the episode. And I was like, we were giving it away for free.
Yeah, you heard us say that.
Yeah.
So I will just post in there. So
I've had
you're in the Overblood group.
They just bought the whole Stalker franchise. I was like, you didn't have to do that.
You shouldn't do that because they're not worth it. Just
I don't know if I don't know what to take away from this.
First one's great.
Clear
Sky was not.
We offered to give it to you for free and you bought it, and I guess that's good. Support the creator, even though we bought the extra copies, so it's supporting the creator.
I got it free in a bundle, so I didn't actually buy it. But
well.
I didn't buy it, but I got other stuff with the bundle, and I just didn't need it. I actually got Clear Sky and Call Pripyat in that bundle. So
next time we do a giveaway, we should make people buy into it, and maybe more people. It'll be like that sales tactic. Well, apparently there's that sales tactic where people don't want free shit, but they want to pay in as a gamble for it. That's a big thing with
a timeshare.
Yeah.
All we got to do is have them sign up for a rally. And if we get the K-pop to do it, 1 million people will sign up for it.
All right, next giveaway we do a timeshare where I set up a Steam account with only that game on it, and we rent time. You can play Stalker for 2 weeks at a time, and then it goes to the next person on the timeshare. I changed the passwords.
It's like the class turtle.
Yeah.
I don't think that would work.
All right, if you don't finish it, you gotta wait 2 months or two. You have to wait a whole fucking year to get back into the timeshare to play it again.
And I think I should introduce what we're talking about this week. We're actually doing a sequel on the show, which happens sometimes.
Yeah.
It's been almost a year since we covered Parasite Eve 1, and we're going to be covering Parasite Eve 2 tonight because I hate myself.
Well, the first one was a smash hit for us.
Yeah, it's one of our top 10. That was episode 23. So we'll probably talk a little bit about it, but to get the whole thing, go check out episode 23 and listen to us let's just talk about how great the first one was. And
I say it's not even us bitching. That's what I meant by smash hit. You picked it, and Stefan and I both went into it thinking the fuck is this weird game, and we both ended up loving it.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you said about this one. I'm really excited.
I have other opinions.
Okay, that's about how I feel. And there will be spoilers for Parasite Eve 1 and 2. You've been warned. I mean, it doesn't matter because this game came out in 2000, so 20 years ago, and there's nothing to really spoil about this game anyway. It doesn't matter.
Unfortunately, I read what happens in the third game, so I won't spoil that, but I am somewhat disheartened.
We're playing the third birthday next year.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one because I'm
trying to keep this every June for the first 3 years of this podcast. We play a Parasite Eve game.
Apparently, the third one has a weird twist in it.
Yeah,
that
nobody's looking forward to it.
I am actually. The third one is an action game, and she loses clothes and she gets beat up. It looks fun though.
Oh,
like a game actually.
Yeah. Speaking of that, the girl in this game, her name is Ayabrea, because we need to get into this.
Ayabrea.
Ayabrea, and I don't know about you guys, but does it feel like she got a little thick since the first game?
She's beefed up. She's like Leon in Resident Evil 4. She's beefed up because now she's a member of Mist, which we all just kind of have to accept as a thing.
Went to the Polygon gym.
She was like a stick in the first game.
Yeah, in the first game, she was just your average New York City cop, and now she works for the FBI.
Yeah, an operative of Mitochondrial Investigation and Suppression Team, which is MIST.
Yeah.
Like
So
so said
stupid.
that she
Which
used
was
to work for
definitely-
something called STARS. No, I'm just kidding.
It was definitely named Mist, and then they were like, "Shit, we got to come up with like a cool acronym. Like Mist is cool. What works with Mist? Okay, mitochondria and team.
This is a
dumb.
Resident Evil.
I mean,
Yeah.
this game, one of the biggest problems with this game, I'm going to say right now, is it never should have been called Parasite Eve 2. It should have been Parasite Eve, I Want to Be Resident Evil. Some other, like, just name. So because it's a direct sequel story-wise, but
Mm,
it's completely different gameplay.
It takes place
Kinda.
3 years later, very in the vein of Resident Evil 4. Where after Aya has survived this like travesty, she comes back working for the government because she's the best. She's lived through it before. She knows how to handle it. And it's very odd immediately because the first game is very much like a Resident Evil clone in terms of playstyle. And this one's
Not
like,
the first
we're
one.
going to do
The
what?
first one plays like
The
an
first
RPG.
one was more RPG, yeah.
Yeah, this one is a Resident Evil clone.
I don't think so. I think I actually made a note when I was playing it because I was like, this is so weird, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized that this isn't an RPG clone. This isn't a Resident Evil clone. This is a real time combat RPG, like JRPG. Like
But
you
it
have
had the
HP, MP.
Yeah, but the HP don't match. The MP doesn't really. It's almost
you have like
a-
powers. You have like pyrokinetic powers.
You have
uh,
you have 8 powers, 12 if you use the items, the
Yeah,
secret
but
items.
pyrokinesis is the best one.
I didn't
Yeah.
use it very much. I played this game wrong, though.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought it was the best one.
Well, 'cause
I
that the first one had the active time battle, and then
Yes.
it also had the random
Mhm.
encounters, which was more in line with like Final Fantasy VII, which had come out like the year before.
Close to it.
Yeah,
well, I honestly don't think either one of them are like Resident Evil, if I'm being honest here. I think this one made an attempt to be more Resident Evil, but it's not. It's still not there.
I'm
first
surprised by that.
one
I think this one's
wasn't
way
tank
less
controls.
Resident Evil.
The first one had, like as Ian said, you had an ATB beaner. You actually leveled up. This one, they take away the level up. Yes, you can level up your spells, but the enemies don't. Like in the first one, you could go back in a room, leave a room, the enemies would respawn. You go and normal RPG type thing, run and fight them over and over again. This game didn't have that. This game, they would respawn after a certain amount of time, but all the enemies are set in this game.
Yeah, but every
Yeah.
time you go into combat, when you start, it does that RPG thing. It might as well be like the Pokemon battle screen, where it's like,
Yeah, but it does it, but then immediately you're into battle. It doesn't, you're just
Yeah.
there, and you fight in some terrible corridors in this game.
yeah,
Ooh.
the fighting is
Terrible.
fucking atrocious. But
Like, In the
at
first
the end
game,
of every battle, it comes up with the XP screen, which is also a very JRPG thing to be like, level up.
you don't level up.
No, you don't. You just get like BP and XP. So it's like, leveling up in the sense of you get money to buy better guns, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. But we should also mention though that this wasn't actually supposed to be the sequel. This was supposed to be an offshoot to the
It was?
game. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
supposed to be a side story, and then they were just like, "Fuck it, throw 2 on there."
I
Okay,
like
see,
to think what
Would
happened
have been
was
better like that.
I like to think what happened was Squaresoft was like, all right, we're going to make a new protagonist. So like start drawing this down. All right. It's going to be a girl and she's going to be blonde and she's going to be like skinny and really tiny. And they were like, hey, someone back was like, hey, that sounds like Aya from the first game. And then Squaresoft realized that all their protagonists looked alike and they were like, fuck it. We might as well just make it Aya.
I also don't. I like the way she looks more in the first game than I do in this game. That doesn't really matter. It's fine. It just.
Well, this game came out like half a year, or not half a year, but it came out
About
like
a year.
a year afterwards. Like they clearly burned right into this. So I don't know how much. Yeah, like I know it's supposed to be a side story. I think it'd be interesting.
1998 and 2000.
I remember getting the demo disc from like Play Magazine or something that had Final Fantasy VII, Saga Frontier, Parasite Eve. I remember watching that opening trailer for Parasite Eve 1 and thinking, man, these graphics are never going to get better than this.
Oh my god! The cutscenes in this game are something else. They I wish I had played this game in 1999 so I could see the cutscenes then, because I bet if I watched them then I would have been like, it would have been like mind blowing. But them now is like,
But it's the same thing with like Final Fantasy. Go back and watch Final Fantasy VII cutscenes, and that was like mind blowing at the time with High Wind and all the other things that you saw, or Tiny Bronco, and all the things. And you think, oh man, this is stunning. What
Yeah.
I can't imagine this. How are they going to top what we're doing? And then
It's
like
almost-
NFL 2K comes out and you're like, oh, this looks like crap.
Oh yeah,
It's
lighting
almost like,
lighting effects are a thing.
It's mind blowing in a different way now because you look back and you think, wow, they pulled off some pretty good stuff back then.
Yeah, considering they were, making games on like TI-84s, like calculator computers. It's pretty. It's impressive. Like in hindsight, is the thing.
I mean, I played this back in the day because a friend of mine had actually introduced me to this game too. Well, he introduced me to the first one. He also brought this one over once, and he showed me like little bits of this game, and I remember thinking, well, that's weird because. We're gonna stop talking about the first one real quick because otherwise we just won't stop. But like the first game, like you could run around, it wasn't tank controls, but this game is tank controls for some reason. Like I don't hate tank controls, but when you're telling me to dodge enemies, like I don't mind like a zombie, like I'll dodge a zombie, I'll dodge a hunter in Resident Evil. I'm cool with that. I don't even dodge a nemesis. But when you're like, okay, you're gonna dodge this projectile, then you're gonna shoot at him 10 times, then you're gonna dodge another projectile. Give me some normal controls. Get rid of these tank controls. Like they don't work in this game. They're not the enemies are in a different game than you're playing. You're playing Resident Evil and they're playing an RPG and they're wondering like, what the hell's up with you? It just doesn't make any sense.
It's very odd because there's so many fights in this game that are like they clearly had a vision of how this game was supposed to play and it just didn't really translate. There's so many fights that take place on in tiny corridors or in very small rooms, and like your weapon is a fucking M4 ranged rifle and the enemy has a sword and you're like, well, he has the advantage because I'm 2 feet away from him and I can't get more than 2 feet away from him. Why don't I have a sword?
Do you think maybe Squaresoft, they saw what was happening with Resident Evil and they said maybe that's what we want to do, and they kind of got lost on the path towards their goal?
I don't know.
Because they took the dude from Resident Evil and said, hey, make this game for us. And he kind of made Resident Evil for Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I think this game needed more time, and I understand why it didn't, because they were like really trying to battle other IPs at the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
and what Stefan was saying, Kyle is supposed to be the main character in the original of this game.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Kyle,
this whole
just
game, it's
sucks.
bizarre because actually one of the best things about the first game is that it takes place in Los Angeles or New York.
New York.
First game's
New York. Yeah, and that was just a fun place to, like, you had a little mini map, you could go to different areas and everything. And this game starts off in Los Angeles, and you think, okay, well, that's where I'm going to be playing at this time, and I'm going to explore LA. But you eventually just go through the opening segment where you just figure out this neo mitochondria creature called Golem Number 9 is destroying the tower on a building, and like later on you'd go to a dry field, like you never leave it.
Yeah,
which is
the
the worst
majority of this
possible thing they
game-
could have done.
It's bizarre. The majority of this game is like it takes place in like a Western town where
Mhm.
the hotel has like pictures of like Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp on the walls, and
The
you're
game
like,
tricks you.
yeah,
Because it starts off in Acropolis Tower in Los Angeles, so you start in a big city. I mean, like that Acropolis Tower is the best part of this entire game.
yeah, I really love that because I was like, oh, cool, it's gonna be like the first game.
As I was playing that, like
Just a
you
little
start
bigger.
off, like even the opening cutscene, like the CG is still really damn good when she shows up and you're walking down the street, you see a helicopter crash, things are burning, like it gets you in there. And then when you go up that elevator in the Acropolis Tower right in the beginning, and you go, one of the first rooms you go into when you have control, you see a bunch of just SWAT members just ripped to shreds. Like, I mean, that had to have been terrifying.
Do
back
you
then.
do you guys remember running into that SWAT team guy Marvin, and he gave you the key to rescue the survivors in the other rooms?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, you're not wrong. That happened close to it. His name wasn't Marvin, but he did give you a key to rescue a survivor in the cafeteria.
I believe his name in this game was Slaughtered SWAT Member.
Yeah. Number 3. That's right.
It's a family name.
It's yeah.
It's not. I mean, it was so good. Like the opening is.
He
so
took his mother's
damn-
name.
Like and that's when you realize pretty quick, like this game is not Parasite Eve 1, but like they don't really get into it till later because like the enemies in the beginning, they take a few shots, they die, not too bad. They don't, they're not beating on you too bad. You're not. I mean, and this game also will have ammo boxes in every area for you to refill your ammo because you only can hold 500 bullets, and the game doesn't give you bullets very often.
Let me tell you, that was a great mechanic for my playthrough 20-something years ago because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So great. Free ammo is once you figure out it's free ammo, it's great.
Yeah, it says something like this is basically an unlimited supply, and I was like, okay, like that's very different to what you're supposed to do as a survival horror game.
It works though, because even though yes you can refill on ammo, I mean I think I fucked up because the handgun that I used throughout this game had a 100 clip or 100 shot clip. Fucking useless. It would take 100 bullets to kill one enemy. The weapons in this game are very odd because they're bad. You'll get like an MP5 that has like 50 rounds. And when you shoot enemies, it does like the damage counter like a JRPG does. But I couldn't figure out like what the connection was between the bullets and the damage that they were doing. Because it seemed like it was somehow based on like an RNG system. Like I'd fire 50 rounds at an enemy and it would either do between like 50 damage and like 200 damage. And I was like, there's a lot of RNG.
Yeah, like, what is that's why I say it felt like very JRPG to me, between like the the unlimited ammo checkpoints, which is like that's where you go to like refill your MB. It's essentially you're refilling your ammo, then you have to go fight the bad guys. You're like, all right, I'm gonna shoot at them, and I hope that this does like on the high level of damage. I hope they don't have a resilience to this.
Well, also one of the other problem with this, like with the whole gun system, is that they never, especially later on in this game, as we'll get into. I felt like I was fighting enemies, like I was rushing through an RPG and I didn't level up. Because I felt so weak and it took way too much ammo. And to kind of round that back, like even when you're in the Acropolis, like in the Acropolis Tower, everything feels even. Nothing feels too crazy. They all die decently. And then and that tower, when you finish that tower, they take away your weapons and your armor. Yeah. I was not happy.
One of the problems I kind of had with, Parasite Eve 1 and 2 is you're so dependent on your gear. Even in Parasite 1 where you were able to level up, I remember fighting Eve on the boat in Parasite Eve 1. And you had to change your freaking armor halfway through. Otherwise, you were going to run out of, I think it was like magic I ran out. It was hella long ago, so I don't totally remember. But that was brutal. My friend had to explain that to me. He's like, oh, I accidentally changed my gear. So what the hell? And so even in this one, you're so dependent on everything. And then like it felt like they even dumbed down the modification system on your gear, which was real unfortunate because I think that was the first time you'd really even seen something like that was in Parasite Eve 1. Yeah. And then 2, they said, well, F it, we're going to kind of get rid of that system and give you a real basic version of it. Have fun.
Yeah, that's like the thing that, like, if you get in a boss fight in this game and you didn't prepare for it and you didn't know it was coming and you didn't have the ammo for it, too bad. Yeah. Like, it does not care whatsoever. Yeah. It doesn't set you up for any sort of success.
Yeah. I feel like this game, I despite the fact that I did like overall enjoy it, I felt like this game it was doing like too many different things gameplay wise, and it needed to pick one thing and focus on it. Like part of me was like, this is like a zombie apocalypse scenario where I'm playing as like a support class from a JRPG, and that would be really cool if you really push that to like the far extreme of like you've got healing magic, but you can't, like, you don't do very much damage, and there's this zombie apocalypse, and you're the only one that can help. Or do like a Resident Evil thing and make it a survival horror and like make the guns really strong, but you have limited ammo, and sometimes you just have to run away. But they did like a mix of both, and it was just odd. And also bad. And kind of bad. And they also forgot to voice act like half the game.
I don't think they forgot.
It's that very JRPG thing of like, you go like, okay, this cutscene is important because people are talking, and then the next scene it's like no music, nothing, just like text on the screen. I was like, oh, come on, like at least like if you don't do the voices, at least like play some good music.
I mean, that's the other part. Like, this game like sets up things and never really even comes back to them. Like when you're in the Acropolis Tower, you have a scene where you see one of the SWAT members that survived setting a bomb. Like you have certain things that kind of start like this mystery. They don't come back around to that mystery until the last like 30 minutes of the game. Yeah. And it's just such a weird game. And the enemies are annoying to fight, and the targeting is shitty. Like you hit square to change targets, and it's garbage.
I'll agree to that.
I mean, going back to the dry field conversation, it's interesting that they chose just this abandoned but not abandoned town. It wasn't really clear if people still lived there or what was going on.
Well, there was one woman there that you come across that turns into what the fuck are they called?
Mitochondria.
Mitochondria.
She turns into a mitochondria dog monster.
One of the only people you find in that town, from that town.
There's like,
well, there was the guy that was the innkeeper or something.
Yeah,
that old dude,
Gary Douglas,
the guy from Tremors. That guy.
Yeah.
Oh
Basically, it's so odd because it would be like really interesting to start a game in LA, like to do like the reverse of like the second Predators movie has that great opening where it's like it's
the shootout.
No, I'm talking about like when it first opens and it's like the helicopter flying over the forest. And it's like, it looks like, okay, we're going back to the rainforest. We're going to go back to fight the Predator. And then it like zooms up and you're in LA. It's like the exact opposite of that, where you're in LA. And then it's like, just kidding. You're out in the fucking desert.
Yeah.
We got
There's like a lot of weird influences too. Like as soon as you get to dry fields, and I should mention that if anything, the soundtrack to this is amazing. But when you get there, yeah, like the first thing it plays is this real like kicker bass tune, and a lot of the mitochondria kind of represent, to me, I felt like the aliens in the movie They Live.
Oh yeah. That's
and the bass line to Dryfield kind of represents that. It's almost the exact same thing that John Carpenter created for They Live. Like it's that same bass tune.
It would have been really cool to do this game like that, where you start in LA and it's like a badass scene like the first game. You're fighting all these mitochondria monsters, and then it like rips it out from you, and suddenly you're in The Thing, or suddenly you're in like Silent Hill. And it's like a completely different game, but it's just like the same game in a worse area.
Yeah, I think they try to get Tremors in there too. That's why he's like that other officer dude. I forget his Madigan something.
Oh, the guy that calls you that you call on the phone and does nothing.
Yeah, he's on like on the water tower hiding from.
That's Pierce.
Mitochondria.
Well, okay.
Pierce. Yeah,
I do have a complaint.
No, I want to make. Broderick is that guy. You're thinking of Pierce Carradine.
Oh, okay. It's after Resident Evil 6. I hate people named Pierce, so I'm sorry.
Well, two things I want to say. One, like when the Acropolis Tower ends, before you get to Dryfield, we've kind of been off and on talking about, is you have like. Because you have like the force is there. You have the SWAT team. You have some of the mist people. Your boss is there, and then after that place blows up, and then they send you to Dryfield because of cows are being mutilated. Is what the bullshit reason was. They only send you, and all the times you call them throughout this game, because save points are phones. They still say everyone's at the Acropolis Tower. We can't send you. The Acropolis Tower got blown up and they're all dead. Like there
is no Acropolis Tower
anymore. Why? Like they really don't send anybody in this game until like the very, very end.
It's like a weird blend of like Men in Black and Ghost in the Shell, like the Mist Unit. I mean, like it's just
stupid.
It's again, it's too many ideas happening at once. Like, okay, the whole UFO thing, like there's even a joke where they're like, you got to go here and check out these like cow carcasses. There's cell degeneration. And like that's a mini story in the article. The headline is like UFOs in Arizona.
And also, which I forgot to mention, like the reason, like they talk about in the very opening of how the monsters had ran away from New York and traveled across the country.
Yeah.
And the monsters you're fighting, you find out, all come from this one area in this town, like we'll get to it, but a shelter. Like they completely just skipped the idea of these monsters running away from across the world. Like, nope, different. They came from somewhere else.
And that's one thing, kind of playing through it again and watching it. Nobody really references that there's this outbreak of something going on across the world. They're just like, well, just going to work. It's Tuesday. You know?
Like, it would have been cool if Myst was like way more like. I felt like they were going for a Men in Black thing where like they read the tabloids and like, because that's what happens in Men in Black. They look at the tabloids and they're like, well, this is a true story, and they're like, what? No, this is bullshit. Like so and so married Frankenstein, and they're like, Men in Black is that's actually real, and they're the organization that deals with that shit. That would have been cool, but they don't go fully on board with that. They can't they're not committed to any single idea.
Myst is like an early version of the BSA from Resident Evil.
Yeah, it's the BSAA, it's the Ghost in the Shell Section 9, it's Men in Black. It's all it's trying to be everything, and it's like, just do one thing. Just be Men in Black or be Ghost in the Shell, and because that would explain why you just send one operative in, because all the operatives are so badass or something.
Yeah, essentially They succeed in small doses. There's this part when you're in dry field where you just hear this woman screaming like crazy behind a door.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It just sounds so terrifying. Like as a kid, that would have scared the shit out of me. And you go in there and she transforms, I believe, into one of the mitochondria. Yeah.
Into a dog
you
monster.
fight number 9.
But it's like terrifying, the idea that you have to go in there and you have to figure it out. Like that, I would have been scared to hell as a kid.
It is kind of interesting. You can see the blueprint of what they're doing with Resident Evil in this game. Because Resident Evil, so like in the first one, you have the mansion, and then you have the underground, and then a couple other places. But you kind of have the same thing here. So you're in LA, and then you're in Dryfield, and then you're underground, and then in that the bunker system at the end there.
We'll get
the Umbrella Lab.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it's the other problem I have with it is that like Aya or whatever fucking name is, good old AB, she is like they keep like flying back and forth wildly between her being like serious and legitimately involved in everything going on and her like cracking jokes. It like, again, they need to stick to one thing. Like when you go into that room where the woman is screaming, Aya's like actually kind of freaked out. She's like, I heard a woman like screaming Bloody Murray. I'm worried that somebody's dead in there. I need to go check it out. But then you go in there and like immediately she's like making jokes like, guess it's empty. And it's like, no, fuck you. Like, be serious or be jokey. Don't be both. Is it supposed to be like a campy experience, or are you like a serious cop?
I was telling Mike, I was like, this room reminds me of the one in Resident Evil 4 where him and what's his name? The Spanish dude. Luis, yeah.
Luis.
Yeah, he's like, you gotta smoke. Like it looks exactly like that room.
I said no more than 50 invitations.
Yeah, it's if Luis was the main character of your game. That's
We should bring
check out
that
the
up,
bombshells
too.
on her. Like that character.
That's
Dryfield.
it's funny.
Dryfield's terrible. Like you were there for so long. It's a small town. Like when you see the map, it's really a small area in a game, even in game area. But you're constantly running around in circles because the door's locked, and they'll have the dumbest like quests. Like you'll have to. There's a part where you need like we were talking about, where you get to the screaming woman. You'll need a tool, but you can't just go grab the tool, even if you know where it is. You have to run back to the guy from Tremors, talk to him, ask him to borrow the tool. He'll tell you where the tool's at, and you got to go run and get the tool.
But isn't that the JRPG meme of, well, I need you to open the front door, but we need you to do that. You need to get the card key, but to get the card key, you got to talk to the firefighter.
I'm okay with that in JRPG when I'm, not running around in tank controls. I'm okay with that, but this is like this is trying to be two different games. Like it wants to be a survival horror game at heart with very light RPG elements, and it doesn't work.
It's bizarre. It's a bizarre experience because there's 3 or 4 very good games in this that are all like trying to fight to be the game happening at that moment. It'd be like watching a Ghost in the Shell movie with like where like at the end the major is like fighting the bad guy and like kills him, and it's this super sad scene because like you've learned everything about his life and he's like super sentimental and sympathetic, and like he passes away dead, and then the major just like turns and looks directly in the camera and is like, I guess we should have tried turning him off and on again, waka waka. It's like, what's
Slap him
happening
on the side of the head.
Yeah.
It's also
my boobs fell out. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
Dryfield also has that great old level design where they use like random shit in the environment to block you off.
Yeah.
So like at the beginning, her car is just parked across the whole road by the gas station. It's like, because that's how people normally park.
Well, and not only that, but the guy, Mr. Douglas, the African American dude with the dog, Flint, he apparently set up mines everywhere on the road.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that works.
I don't either, because if you kill people, they come find you.
It's bizarre even to me that like the area is called Dryfield, and it's a huge like western town that's been abandoned. It's like they're clearly doing like a country western thing. That's what they're going for at this moment. And the house where you hear the woman screaming is like an abandoned ghost house. Like it's so bizarre. Like because I went in there and I forgot while I was in that house, I forgot where I was. That outside this house is like the expanse of the desert. And that's not what you want to imagine when you're in like The Haunting of Hill House.
Like that room could have been in a remake of Sweet Home on PS1.
Oh, and
that house could have easily, that whole section could have easily taken place in like one of the neighborhoods outside LA. Like it could have taken place like in Hollywood. It's like, oh, and it's an abandoned mansion in Hollywood, and like they say it's haunted, not in the middle of like pew pew Doc Holliday in the OK Corral. Also behind the saloon there's this haunted house, Victorian era, so don't go in there. It's like, what the fuck?
Don't even get me started on like the fucking like one of the enemies that you fight constantly in Dryfield. They look like a combination of a horse with a giraffe neck. And they don't fit in this game. Like they just do so much damage to you. And they like in a survival horror game, in a normal, if you're playing on like a normal difficulty, you should be able to take out an enemy with a couple shots. Like it shouldn't be, especially in a game where it wants you to fight them. Like you unload and they'll just run at you and knock you over. And it is so fucking annoying. And they're everywhere. And you're fighting them in little tiny spaces. I mean, like in the Aladdin things, it's like little tiny space, big fucking boss. Like, come on, game. And it does it everywhere in this game.
You know what they look like? I've been trying to think of this all fucking week. Did anyone ever watch the show Dark Angel with Jessica Alba?
Yes, in Seattle.
Yeah. You remember like her like friend / like the guy who's like in love with her who gets turned into like the half dog for some reason? Yeah, that's what the enemies in this game are. Like that weird dog, like buddy romantic interests.
Well, like the bosses are all pretty big. Like that one guy that's 3 stories tall and shoots fire out of his mouth. You're just on that little walkway.
Yeah. He's an elephant. He's supposed to be like an elephant, I guess, or something.
Yeah, but you don't find elephants in the Wild West.
No, okay. If you're gonna talk about that boss, okay. So here I'm gonna set it up. Like that's like everything with that. Like you get a key to a hotel. Everything's gone to hell. Like you have monsters running around the town. The guy's like, "Hey, here's a key to the hotel. Why don't you go inside there?" And you just go in the hotel room like nothing's wrong. You know, you got the back door open. You're gonna take a shower. And I'm thinking to myself, if I just had to fight monsters, I don't think I'd be that. I think the door would be locked up, sealed, barricaded. Like, I mean, I know it's a video game, so I mean, I'm being over exaggerated, but just like everything about this town is weird. In that fight, you're on a little balcony of a hotel, and this giant monster just happens to show up at night for some reason. And it looks like a cross between an elephant and a fat guy were merged together, and you shoved a flamethrower in his mouth. For what reason? I don't know.
He reminded me of like one of those guys from Doom with like the
fatties.
Yeah, the fatties.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I have no idea what you're talking about.
How weird would it be if Pinky just like walked into the middle of this? I guess it wouldn't be weird because that's what this fucking game is, just a mixed mass of everything. Pinky from Doom just walks in, like not even like Pinky from the games, like the Pinky from like the live action movie. Rolls in on his wheelchair.
Like the sad part is like when going back to the cutscenes, how good they look. You see the enemy design in them, and it looks way better than what you get in the actual game, which looks totally terrible.
He's called Burner. But
what was everyone's favorite dumb enemy?
It's not like you fight him in a very small area, and he takes a lot of shots because your guns are useless in this game. And like he breathes fire, he tries to punch you, he shoots poison gas. Like I mean, there's a way to kind of cheese it where you can just stand in one corner and he can't touch you very well.
Yeah,
which is what I did. But it's just like this game didn't know what it wanted to be, and I'm okay with fighting a big boss fight in a small room as long as the boss doesn't take. Like one example, one boss took 45 grenades and me hitting the R1 button 45 times to kill the fucker, and I can only hold 100 grenades. And you can't have a survival horror game where a boss takes that many hits. Like that doesn't make sense.
You know what's weird is like I was looking through the enemies list, and in Parasite Eve 1, and I remember these 2 enemies very clearly. There's bats that you fight, and there's armadillos. Yeah. You fight. I think you fight both of them in the Chrysler Museum. Why aren't there armadillos in the Wild West? Like I get that like they've run off and escaped to this area, but I like the entire section. I was just asking myself like, why are these here? Why is this the enemy that I'm fighting? I know that it doesn't like make sense story wise, but it's the desert. I should be fighting like giant snakes or
they do have scorpions.
They do have scorpions, and Like the one scene I'll give them credit for is when you like go to that well and all the bats fly out of it. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
That doesn't always happen.
The well that leads down to an underground bunker that somehow nobody knew about, but still kept getting water from this well.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, what was the situation with that? Like they send the bucket down the well, and then some guy in like the lab has to run over to the sink and fill up the bucket with tap water.
Got an Arrowhead water bottle he just fills it up with.
Yeah,
well, like the bathtubs in Snatcher or something, where you had to go 3 levels down into an underground facility.
He's got like Voss water bottles, and the guys are like, "This is a really good well. This is quality water. You don't even have to filter this stuff." So like, at some point they send it down there and they're like, "We don't have any fucking water. Just put anything in there." They pull it up. They're like, "That's weird. There's coffee in the well."
There are also like there's a boss fight. I didn't know this. I was watching a speedrun of this game. Like when you get down in that well, you have a boss fight against like giant spider devil. We're gonna call him because he's terrible. He almost killed Stefan. I know when Stefan was playing, and you can skip that entire fight. You can just run up the ladder and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Really? And I think that's another thing that's kind of like amusing about this game. Like I didn't know this because I played like an RPG. I fought every enemy I could because I'm trying to get BP. I'm trying to get experience. Like I'm playing like an RPG. And then when I watched the speedrun, I watched the guy didn't kill anything, but a couple enemies and he did just fine. That's when I'm like, this game is not really an RPG because it wasn't like he did glitches or any like what you do when you watch speedrun RPGs. He just played the game like a survival horror game, and that's and you can play it just fine like that.
Like an RPG, you can run away from any battle.
But like even if you watch an RPG speedrun, they use certain glitches to kind of get through things or certain mechanics to alter what the game will do because you're supposed to be, a certain amount of strength, which you don't need in this game. You can play completely like actually, you should play this game like a survival horror game because that's what it is deep down.
There are some, for all the complaints, they did do a lot of interesting stuff with this game. Like you can see your weapon. So like Squaresoft, they were kind of all over the place, it seems like, in the late 90s trying to figure out what their next path was going to be. And so like with this, so I played through this game originally in Japanese. I don't speak Japanese, right? I just luck of the draw, I managed to find a copy with this weird little thing for my PlayStation. But there was pictures of everything in the inventory, so you knew what it was that you were choosing. And then when you're fighting, you actually see the weapon on you, and figuring out what it does. Plus, everything was color coded, so that made stuff even easier if you don't speak the language that they're using for that game. So for all the stuff that they were kind of hit and miss all over the board with, their inventory stuff was spot on. They had it figured out. You knew what kind of ammo you were using, what your gun looked like, even down to the magic or the mitochondrial super powers.
Yeah, it's MP for mitochondria points, not magic points, because this isn't a JRPG. This is a
but like you knew what you were using. So
but yeah, the inventory is great though.
It was great.
And it has like I think it's great though because it's a JRPG inventory where like everything's color coded, but everything's color coded in most JRPGs so like what kind of weapon it is. It's just that instead of using like ice powers, fire powers, you have like machine gun ammo, pistol ammo.
But you think about like Final Fantasy VIII or 7 or any of the other ones that kind of came before, and you had if it was in. They did kind of have the basic symbols for things.
Yeah.
But
if it was figure that shit out.
And so if you were say, I need to use the Buster Sword, I have no idea what the hell the Buster Sword is. I just have to hope that the thing I click on is it, And
the sword never changed other hands. So you're like, I hope this is the sword. This is a big sword. Like it's the same big sword I had before.
And that's another thing I want to bring up real fast is that this game has a inventory system like you're playing a survival horror game where you can't hold a lot of items, but they take away you don't have a chest like in Resident Evil. You have a chest you can put items in, and everything is in every chest. You get chests in this game, but they're not connected for some reason.
Yeah. It's like a dual inventory system because when you're outside of battle, you can access any part of it. You can
only hold 20 items.
Right, but you can access the overall inventory system. When you're in battle, whatever you put into like your carrying case for battle, that's all you can access at
Which
that
fucked
point.
me over.
You mean like a JRPG, like Trials, which has your in-battle inventory?
And that's not a normal RPG, though. In a normal JRPG, you could have access to all your equipment, all your items.
Well, I mean, so some like I said, Trials of like Mana and not Trials of Trials of Mana and Secrets of Mana. They have that system where you have like you have your inventory, but then when you're in battle, you have like your battle items to like increase your health and stuff.
Not in Secret of Mana. I can vouch and say not in Secret of Mana.
I thought Trials of Mana definitely has it.
Maybe I haven't played enough to be able to argue with you, but I can guarantee you Secret of Mana. I'm pretty sure you're wrong, but I can't prove it, so I'm not.
I'd also like to point out that the final nail in the coffin for this being a JRPG is it has a fucking gunblade in it.
It does. You can get it on the second playthrough, I think.
Yeah, and it's even modeled after fucking Squall's gunblade in Final Fantasy. Like they clearly were like, this is by the fourth game, this is just gonna be Final Fantasy.
That's because the number 9 that we've joked about, he's like this weird. Think of like Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII type guy, where he's chasing after you. You fight him in the Acropolis Tower. You see him you fight him once in Dryfield. You see him a couple times. Like he's constantly the guy that's causing problems throughout this game. But spoiler alert, you don't have a final fight with him.
Yeah, he's set up to be like the big bad of the game, or to be like the final boss fight before like the real boss fight. And you fight him at Acropolis Tower, and then you fight him at Dryfield, and then he's just gone.
He gets shot dead. That's the end of it.
It's just like, all right, peace out. And then he gets killed later on, like story wise. It's like, but he's the guy. That's the guy I'm fighting. And again, that could be like really interesting in a different game, but not in this game. It'd be weird to have like imagine like Far Cry 3. If halfway through Far Cry 3, like Hoyt shows up and shoots Voss Montenegro in the fucking head, and like that would have been a better way to play Far Cry 3. It's just like complete blue balls on fighting this guy again. It was like, fuck it, he doesn't matter anymore. So, but he's the guy that I'm talking to. He's like the exact opposite of me. He's also a hunter. Eve's kept back. It's fine. So, whatever.
It makes it seem like it's going to be cool. Like they even have one part in Dryfield where they split the game from day and night. Like you run around the town during the day, and then you get into a boss fight, and you get your mitochondria powers activate or something, and I think you get like angel wings, which are from the first game, and then you pass out, and then it's nighttime, which was kind of a cool thing. Like it made it way more creepy. But also, like we had mentioned, there's a guy you rescue in the town named Kyle, who ends up like sticking with you off and on throughout the rest of the game.
Love interest.
He's a tool.
He's a total like just.
He's a Steve from Code
Yeah.
Veronica.
Yeah, your love interest is Steve Burnside, and this game really thinks he's cool.
He's not.
He's really not. Like, I'm so glad that wasn't the main character of this game, because he just kind of sucks.
He was supposed to be, though, I found out now. But yeah, he just like there's one part when you like I didn't understand this. Like when he finds you in their sleep passed out, he points the gun at you. Like that's his way of waking you up. I'm gonna point a gun at you to see if you wake up. And then you burn his hand.
That'll wake you up pretty fast.
I'll give him credit because like you don't know what he knows, and the only thing you say to him is like, don't you tell him that like you're like some mitochondria person too or something? And he's
you
like,
say who you work for. He's a private eye is all he says.
Yeah, and he's like, better kill this government agent. And you set his arm on fire, and that cutscene is so weird because he backs up and like grabs his belt for some reason, and I was like, did he get like kicked in the dick too? What's going on here? It's such a stilted, weird cutscene, and as somebody who has been on fire, which is a sentence that I can say, you don't react like that. If your arm's on fire, you don't like twitch and like suddenly come to the realization that you're on fire. You know pretty much immediately that you're on fire.
But you're not generic Captain American everyman like he is. Your black turtleneck.
His hand is also like fine afterwards. Like she sets his whole arm on fire, and he's like, I dropped my gun. It's like, yeah, your whole arm would be fucking burnt, Kyle.
He's stupid as fuck. Like he's like, he does not need to be in this game. And then you find out he's working for the government. Like he's like this like double agent or something stupid. And then you also find out later on he's working with number 9, the Golem guy, your Sephiroth, but he's also working for the government.
Yeah,
and he's a triple agent or something stupid.
He's a this is gonna be a weird reference, but he's Bulldozer from Transformers, the animated show, who like worked for. In the Transformers show, there's an amazing subplot. Spoilers for a show that no one gives a shit about. Where I think it's Dozer is like he's like meets the Autobots and joins them, and they're like, "You're our best friend, Dozer." And the next episode, he's like, "Slake, I've been working with the Decepticons the whole time," and goes off and fights with them for a little bit. And then like an episode later is like, "Slake, I was actually a triple agent for Optimus Prime. I'm back with the Autobots now," and nobody trusts him. And as a kid, I was always like, "Yeah, that makes complete sense. He's a fucking dick, and he's like betrayed literally every single character. Why would anybody like this person?" And that's how I feel about Kyle. Like, you can't be a triple agent and a love interest. Like, you're just a prick at that point.
It's stupid. Like, she didn't need a love interest. Like, they didn't need to put that in there. I know this is the late 90s and you can't have a female, hero without a love interest, because that's...
Well, she has like 90s. 7 love interests. It's like Pierce is all over her.
Pierce is a fucking dumbass.
Pierce is just like a hopeless idiot. That's like the definition of like the worst character. It's just like, "I fixed your guns for you. Hey, like, do you love me now?" And you're like, "Thanks, Pierce. You're my best friend." And he's like,
he just came from a heist after surfing with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
He is literally that. He's like every character from Hackers. He's just not on the level.
He's every character from Hackers without like the sexual appeal of every character from Hackers.
Right.
It's so stupid. Like, there's just so many. Like, I wanted to like this game. When I picked this game for the show, I was so excited to play this game. Then I played this game, and I was no longer excited to play this game.
It's interesting because I've never that trope of like, "Oh, she friend zoned me," is in like so many fucking games and movies from the 90s. Mm-hmm. I've never played a game where I'm the one friend zoning someone else. Like, that was kind of an interesting dynamic shift.
Well, Pierce can die. Like, I actually killed Pierce in my save because you have to do a couple different things where you rescue him a few different times. Like, you have to rescue him in the desert and give him water. You have to rescue him in a freezer room. And I went in the freezer, he wasn't there, and then apparently he died because I got a bad ending. So I'm like, oh well.
But yeah, I guess I can't complain about Pierce, like about Mist not sending anybody to help you, because Pierce is there and they
don't send him.
Oh no, he just comes anyway, and he's always in the way.
He's always in the way. It's his stupid glasses. He can't see.
"I'm here to save you," and it's like, you work in the armory. You're like the computer guy. We're fighting
there's
monsters.
2 Steve Burnside, because that was your Steve Burnside voice just now. I heard. So
no, my Steve Burnside voice is Gold Lugers. Yeah.
Okay.
Pew 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 pew.
Someday we gotta cover that shit, don't we?
Save me, Claire.
But all the supporting characters are just stereotypes, though, because you have Rupert also, who's like just basically Nick Fury.
Samuel Jackson in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. His only is it Rupert whose like only character trait is that he hates kids?
He shoots somebody with a magnum in the Acropolis Tower. He gets beat up by number 9, and then he doesn't even show up again because his arm is injured till the very end of the game to give you a magnum. That's all he does in this game.
He shows up at the end to give you a magnum, and they promote him to the head of Mist. They're like,
he was the head, I thought, wasn't he?
No, Eric Baldwin was the head, who was like another secret agent for like the shadow government, because they couldn't come up with a cool name for that, so they're just like, he's the shadow government guy. And so he gets arrested, and they're like, who should be the head of Mist? Rupert, you gave a magnum, so clearly you're the best leader that we have.
I don't remember any of this.
It's so dumb.
Maybe I just blocked this game out of my mind. That's what I'm starting to think right now.
His only character traits, if I'm not mistaken about who Rupert is, his only character
black guy with a magnum.
Yeah, I think he's the one who hates kids as well. I think he has like a couple lines about how he hates kids.
You'll get a lot more enjoyment if you just don't play it in English. I'm telling you.
Probably.
You just don't play it.
I had the best time. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, cool, I can shoot 3 bullets at a time now, or 10 bullets. I have a shotgun.
I love the idea of not being able to understand anything Rupert says and just imagining every single one of his lines is about how much he hates kids. Where he shoots the thing with a magnum and he's just like, wish that was a kid. Wish that was a kid. Point blank in the fucking between the eyes.
I mean, me and my friend were playing through. We were just supplying our own plot to the whole thing because neither of us knew what the hell was happening. He was, oh yeah, all right, well, we're on vacation.
As the Acropolis Tower blows up and collapses around you, Rupert's just on the helicopter going hope there were some kids in there.
There's a daycare in the basement. I finally got it.
Also, you don't even save the Acropolis Tower. You go in and kill all the bad guys. And it still blows up. and you're just like calmly waiting on the roof for a helicopter to come, and you're sitting there watching it come down, and you're like, just in time, and like it still takes a while for that helicopter to land for you to get on it. Like the bombs have been exploding for 30 seconds, Rupert. That building's going down.
Yeah, everything is just, it's such a weird game. Like, it's just so stupid.
But you think about it, like every sequel in video, not every sequel, that's a gross whatever, but like Zelda 2 was a weird one-off. Parasite Eve 2 was a weird one-off. Mario 2 was a weird one-off.
Well, Mario 2 is not Mario 2, but
it's not Mario 2, but American.
But also
Mario
it is Mario 2.
But like the regular Final Fantasy 2 was such a weird one-off where it's like beat the crap out of your own guys and great, now you're leveled up.
Yeah, it's funny that they were like, we want to be more like Resident Evil, and like Resident Evil 2 is one of the only like direct sequels. It's like, yeah, like we're gonna tell you what happens like literally a month later. Like this is happening right after. Like this isn't a dream sequence. This is happening.
That's also a really good game, but it's just so many things could have been better in this game. Like the boss fights are all ridiculous and they're unnecessary, and like the monsters are just like you fight scorpions and just really dumb shit in the town. And we got to talk about the product placement in this game too, because there's one point you have a really dumb puzzle where you have to get a key out of the vent, but in order to get the key out of the vent, you have to go to the door. Ask the guy; he'll tell you to go get a magnet in a different building. You got it, and then it's a Coca-Cola magnet. Like,
Yeah, it's
I mean, I don't mind product placement.
If the magnet's important either when you get it. It's just like, here's a magnet. Well, what the hell for?
it's literally like the Austin Powers thing where he's like drinking the soda and he turns around and he's like, I am a super spy, but I sure, or like the Wayne's World thing where they're like in their basement, they just turn like directly at the camera and they're like, I sure do love Pepsi Cola. Wink.
But it's a comedy, so it works. Like, I mean, I don't mind product placement and things. It just,
no, I don't.
It was just stupid.
It has to be funded somehow.
It wasn't subtle. And it should have just been subtle.
It's like Jurassic World product placement where they're like, welcome to the Coca-Cola Jurassic World. And it's like so over the top and stupid, but it's not meant to be a parody. Like they're taking it completely seriously.
Yeah, it was small, but there were so many things that bothered me in this game. So that just topples with everything else.
I think the only time product placement in a game has like worked out hilariously and to the benefit of the game is Final Fantasy 15, where they're like
ramen noodles.
Yeah, they're having like a whole camping trip and like the whole camping thing is a commercial. Yeah. But they're fully like the voice actors are fully aware of how it's happening and they like cheese it up where they're like, man, nothing beats camping out with your friends with a pack of shrimp noodles. What's the best topping? I like the shrimp one. I like the chicken. Like they're so aware of it. And this
that
game
works
like
when you make it a comedy bit. This isn't. This game. No, there's nothing funny about this game except when it ends and you're just funny that you even played it. Like
yeah, you're like play our joke game.
And God.
Did they ever explain the space station in clearly in space that fires down onto an American town and just obliterates it? Like
no,
that is borderline like Resident Evil Dead Aim situation.
Yeah.
Of
somebody had a chip in their arm, and
the president was just like, "Yeah, obliterate it. I'm good with that."
I think what happened was
a Chinese girl had a tattoo, and they were able to lock onto her position. Is that what you think happened?
That's what it is.
I think what happened was a couple years earlier, the designer for this game saw the movie GoldenEye and was like, "Well, we got to have one of them."
How can we get a bigger gun into our game?
And it's that same guy in the background, like, Sir, with an orbital space laser, does that have a plot? And he's like, no.
I mean,
it's just cool.
This game just bounces around. Like you spend your whole time in the town, like you find out there's a shelter, and you got to get to the shelter. Not
a shelter, the shelter, all caps. Shelter. That's the name of the building is
like, I don't even understand. Like, it's not that far. So, like, it kind of has like a survival horror thing where you're like, okay, I got to go get the keys, but then we got to we've got the key. Well, now we got to get gas because the car's out of gas. Okay, so we're going to go get gas. Like, it was stupid.
But you got to get the spade key to go get the gas.
Exactly. Because the gas is locked. As we all know, that's how gas stations work. You lock the gas station.
Well, you know what else was interesting? So, and again, my copy was Japanese, but all the signage in town in the Japanese copy was in English. So like it said armory above the armory, or it even said it had dry field in full English. All right.
That's a big thing in Japanese games where they're like, we're gonna name this English title.
It did take place
I don't know if
in
it's like
America, so it makes sense that they didn't just.
Yeah,
there wouldn't
in
be
Dryfield, Arizona, America.
What was you're in California, right, or is it Arizona?
I'm in California.
Okay.
I think is Dryfield in California as well.
I don't know. I assumed that it was like that border area between like Nevada, Southern California, and Arizona, where there's just nothing.
Right, isn't that how it is out there, Stefan? Just nothing.
Yeah, Dryfield is right next to Death Valley, as we all know. Apparently, Dryfield is in the Mojave Desert. So, yeah, California or Arizona, somewhere in between, or Nevada, maybe.
Yeah,
so it's the same place that New Vegas takes place in.
Last known home to the Manson family.
Like when you get the car and you go to the shelter, you have a cutscene that means nothing. Like you see an albino like horse monster thing that you've been fighting. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be a boss coming up. No, we just want to make a cool cutscene. You never see him again. He doesn't exist.
Hey, who's that guy? Don't worry about it.
And that had one of the worst boss fights I've ever played in a game. Was coming up where you're in this mine, and you fight a giant horse monster that would not fucking die for me. Then I found out I did it wrong, but he just would not die.
Which horse monster was that?
Pretty easy.
Maybe you did it differently. I mean, because I know you can blow up the barrels I saw in a speed run, but for some reason I kept shooting him and shooting him and shooting him, and I must have put who knows how many bullets into him. He just would not die.
It's like if you just run up and down, back and forth, he'll keep jumping, and then you just take pot shots. That's literally all you have to do.
That wasn't Glutton, was it?
No,
Glutton is the trash monster. That's how far Stefan got.
The trash monster. Yeah, that's and then before I found out apparently I was looking at like the bosses in the game. Apparently if you don't fight Burner right, then Flint will die.
Yeah,
the dog will die.
Get a bad ending.
Yeah, it doesn't
That's
matter.
like the worst ending ever is the dog dies. Like what the fuck?
He steps on the dog if you don't kill him in time.
He just steps on the dog.
Very Resident Evil 4, I guess. In that
Even in Resident Evil 4, the dog doesn't die. You can leave it there, but I guess you can't shoot it if you're a fucking asshole.
You can shoot it and it will survive,
Yeah.
and then help you out later.
Yeah.
Well, because you release it still because you shot it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love Resident Evil 4.
Thank you for releasing me from this bear trap by shooting my foot off. How kind of you. Kind of you, blonde
That's a
stranger.
good game, though. We should have played that instead of this shit.
We should have played that game.
We will be. But at some point.
Well, so tell me this, because I didn't get to finish the game, obviously, but
That's okay.
So she is going to Dryfield because they think that that's where the NMCs are coming from, the mitochondria.
No, they don't even know that. They just know that
Yeah.
there were mutilations that didn't
There were
seem right. They're
cows.
sending her on this wild goose chase thing.
But
It's like an X-Files sort of deal.
Yeah, it's like a possibility that something's going on there, though. So she gets into the shelter, and then that's when she finds out that, like, I forget the kid's name, Eve or something.
Eve, yeah.
Yeah, it's like her daughter, but it's because it's
That's
a
way
clone of
later, though.
her.
He was like cloned from her or something, right?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
run around this giant metal bunker, like not metal, but giant bunker was metal, but giant bunker shelter. And that's when you fight tons and tons of like enemies. You fight the worst enemy in the game for me, but they're these fucking like think of like a dinosaur in the water, whatever I can't remember what they're called. And it's terrible. It'll pop up. You have like you have a couple seconds to shoot it before it shoots something that you have to run in tank controls and then shoot at it. It was freaking miserable.
Yeah. But
Also,
that's
Eve is like I don't know what Eve was. Like I played the game and I understood that fight, and I'm usually paying so close attention to the games, and I still have no idea what Eve was meant to be, because it wasn't mitochondria Eve from the first game.
No, it's not her.
It's not her.
well,
And
because like, isn't it that they took like
They got a
the
sample
actual
of her.
mitochondria are like from Aya, and then like they created Eve who controls them, like in the first game, and like that's her thing.
yeah, but that's like a oh god, it's so fucking confusing.
Yeah, it's hard to follow too.
It's honestly easier to like understand the timeline of like the species.
She's a
movies,
clone of
which is saying
a.
something.
So yeah, she's a clone.
So I think what they were trying to do was create like the next evolution of human with Eve.
The first Eve was
the next evolution, and so she was able to control her own mitochondria cells because something in Aya, can't remember, but something in Aya allowed her to kind of have the ability to I don't know, look within herself or whatever.
Okay, hold on. I've got it pulled up now, and this is going to be so confusing, and I apologize to everybody. So in the first game, there was Aya Brea, and her sister Maya Brea. I remember this conversation.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so you have Aya and Maya. The first mitochondrial Eve was like the remake of Maya Brea. God, I hate this game so much. Aya Brea and Maya Brea and mitochondrial Eve Brea. So you have Aya, Maya, and Eve, which came from Maya. In this game, there's also mitochondrial Eve, who's not related to Maya or Maya Eve. It's a different thing that might be Aya's clone, whose name is Eve, who was just a normal girl clone that exists for seemingly no reason whatsoever because it's just a clone of a normal human being.
It's psychic.
Well, yeah, but she gets those powers in the first Parasite. She's not born with that. That's like something that happens to her, right?
Are we just playing Metal Gear Solid? Is that all this is?
Metal Gear Solid is easier to explain because the characters' names aren't Solid Snake and Ballad Snake and Dollad Snake. So like,
they don't just all rhyme.
And his sister Jake and her brother Fake. It's like, God damn it. Aya, Maya, and Eve. And Maya is also Eve, but is not this Eve. There's a different Eve who was eaten by Brahmin, who became the new Eve. And then there's the third game where Eve is Aya, and it's fucking, I don't know.
The thing is, you're not wrong in what you said.
No, I know for a fact that what I said was 100% accurate.
That's the problem.
There's three different Eves. Maya, Aya, and Eve.
This episode must be as confusing as it sounds to me right now to everyone else listening.
It's like the fucking Always Sunny Pepe Sylvia wall.
Yeah. You can
question mark all over it.
You're not gonna, even if you play this game, even if you play the first one back to back, you're still gonna be confused. You're just gonna be as confused as we are right now.
And I looked up, like, I always like to watch YouTube videos sometime before we record and talk about a game, like break down the story. There's nothing for Parasite Eve 2. There's like really no videos on this game.
No, it's
I understand why.
I think yeah, somebody looked at it and they were like, "Fuck that!" Like, like some like game theorist was like, "Fuck that!" I have videos on Knights of the Old Republic, Metal Gear Solid, the Species movies, like that. Like those are easy. Fuck that. Fuck Parasite Eve.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of comments online though of people saying that this is their favorite out of the series, and I'm like, well, it's because it's always followed by this was the first one you played. If you had played the first Parasite Eve, that would be your favorite.
Yeah, that's
this is not as good.
No, I mean, it's a completely different game. It is, if not a sequel, in my opinion, at all. But I do want to talk a little bit more about the shelter. The shelter when the game gets really like, I mean, it's like an Umbrella Lab, but it really feels like you're in a Resident Evil game because you're running around you got to find a password for something. Like, it was kind of cool, but the enemies are just, this is when the game doesn't get crazy, but there's still more than there should be. But it isn't until later on when the game's just like, okay, we're running out of game. Let's just throw everything at you.
That's when they introduced the golems who... Okay, again, this is very confusing. So let me take a run up to this so I understand it. Golem number 9 is the first enemy you fight, the first boss.
Yeah.
And you fight him again, and then he gets killed like off screen or some shit. Like he
gets killed in the final right before the final boss.
Yeah, but you don't fight him after the second time.
He looks like a mutated hunk. Is basically what he looks like.
Basically, yeah. He's like hunk mixed with like sloth from not Metal Gear Solid, from Full Metal Alchemist. Sloth. Yeah, it's just like I don't want to be here. I'm so tired. But yeah, you fight him twice, and he has a voice that doesn't match his character at all. Where he's kind of like high pitched and whiny, like, I'm number 9 Golem. I'm a hunter like you. It's like, okay, whatever. But he specifically is number 9 Golem. That's his name. Number 9 Golem. When you get to the shelter, you fight a bunch of other golems. None of them are numbered.
Mm-hmm. They're not sentient.
Yeah, but the implication is that he's number 9 golem. So there should be conceivably 8 other golems ahead of him and maybe some after him. You can't say like this is golem number 9 and also we have hundreds of pawn golems and hundreds of work golems and they're all named after chess pieces except for him.
Are they supposed to be like the big daddy to like Eve? Is that what their mission is, to like keep her down there?
I think they're like what the zombies in Resident Evil were supposed to be, where they're like the perfect soldier that are just mindless killing machines that you can like, duct tape a gun to their arm, which is essentially what the Tyrant is. Sorry to introduce to everybody.
I can't remember. Were they even human?
I think so, because to make the mitochondrial monsters, you need to start with like human DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And throw in the mitochondria DNA, which might be dinosaur DNA. We don't know. It's
so like how they made the Powerpuff Girls, sort of.
Yes,
throw a bunch of shit together.
Exactly that. They throw a bunch of shit together and they get a bunch of golems. And all the golems, you have knights and pawns and rooks and bishops and number 9, because everyone knows number 9 is the most powerful piece on the chessboard.
Every time you say number 9, I just want to go number 9.
I think you have a cyborg.
Somebody gets that joke.
The entire time playing this game, I wanted to rewatch Cyborg 9. And it's killing me.
Again, this game makes so much more sense if it's not in English.
Yeah, no, you play it the right way, because it's not a game that you want to understand. I mean, it's just like, it's so fucking confusing too. Like, if I wasn't using a guide, I never would have figured out what to do. But then again, I'm not a survival horror guy. I played more in my life in the last year for some reason. But
is this game essentially like would Resident Evil be as confusing as this game if they took out all of the notes in Resident Evil? Is that the only thing it was missing, was the notes explaining everything that was happening?
Well, Resident Evil has doesn't involve it involves mutants. It involves but it's more somehow, I can't look and say it. Resident Evil is more down to earth and makes sense compared to this game.
You're also interacting with more people in Resident Evil. So like Wesker and Barry and the medic, I'm spacing on her name, but
God, don't go there, Ian. You don't know what can of worms you're opening.
I think you're interacting with the same number of people. It's just that Resident Evil takes place in one house and not across an entire state.
Well, I think you're right, Stu. I think you're right. If it did have notes explaining more, which they probably wouldn't make sense in the context of the game, but if there were notes, it probably would be a little bit more coherent as a story.
Because I'm really trying to think of Resident Evil 1. None of the characters explain to you what the zombies are. You only find out what's happening in the mansion because of all the notes you find. Yeah,
the lines like, look, Chris, and is this Chris's blood? And you could have been a Jill sandwich. Those don't explain any story beats.
Those aren't narrative-driven pieces.
But like the diary in Resident Evil, itchy, hungry, scratchy.
That tells you everything you need to know. Like these are people turning into monsters. And this game doesn't have diary entries, and it needs it. It's a weird thing to say. It needs those Resident Evil notes to just explain to you like who the fuck everybody is, and like who's Rupert. He's this guy that's with you at the beginning, and you never see him again until the end of the game. Like
that's like going back to the first game where you would have those long ass car rides, which I'm guessing were hidden loading screens.
Yeah,
and your characters would talk and they would explain what's going on and go beat by beat why they're going somewhere.
Yeah,
why they're doing this next step in the game, and discovering the plot as you discover it. Where in this game,
you don't have anything.
I think some of it is just based on the assumption that you played the first one and that you kind of have a vague idea of, why things are occurring around you.
But then they introduce like all these other like aspects to it, and they give you nothing to grab onto. Like they introduce the shadow government, and they don't explain that in any way. And it's like, oh, am I just supposed to accept that there's this shadow? Like even Metal Gear Solid, when they introduce the fucking Illuminati, they give you like a context of what they do. In this game, I'm like, what does the shadow government do? I mean, they're called the shadow government, so I assume they run the government, but they're also making these creatures. But why? They don't tell you why. Like, what's their goal? What's their end game? I don't know. I don't know what their jobs are.
That wasn't part of this game making. It was just throw a game together and sell it to people.
Yes. Who's the bad guy? The shadow government. Okay.
Did Metal Gear Solid come out like a year before this one?
1998.
Yeah, but they didn't introduce the Illuminati.
I don't
like they didn't introduce that aspect till the Patriots, right?
Yeah, that's in Sons of the Patriots. A lot. God, you're gonna start getting me to.
No. What I was gonna say is if you look at how Metal Gear Solid was even made, I mean, it's a much larger game, space wise.
2001,
and they did way more with that than they did with Parasite Eve II. There was a much more detailed systems, better combat.
You can tell, like just on the base level, you can tell as ridiculous as Metal Gear Solid enemies are, and I'm not going to say that they're all like, like genius thought out things. Fucking, there's a guy named Vamp who is just a vampire, and that's never really like, you just have to accept that he's a vampire.
Nano machines.
They put the thought, even though it's like a magical, mystical thing, it's like, it might as well be like the Force in Star Wars. How does he exist? Nanomachines. Like, at least they put the thought into why he's a vampire, whereas this game's like, it's a golem. All right, what's a golem? Fuck you, I'm not gonna tell you.
He's number 9, stupid. How do you not know these things?
Yeah, he's number 9 golem. Is he the 9th golem? Is his name number 9? Who does he work for? The shadow government, you idiot. What's the shadow government?
One thing I do want to bring up,
tell me nanomachines. Like, at least give me the nanomachine explanation.
Like, as you're running through the shelter, the whole point is to get and activate one elevator so you can go into Jurassic Park down below. And it's so fucking weird. Like, you go in this area called the Neo Arc, which it looks like freaking Jurassic Park, and you have and supposedly that's where the monsters you've been fighting all game were at, but then they broke out and then they're in the shelter, but it never really completely explains that. I don't even know if I'm right.
It was a biohazard, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's just so it's just such a weird game. Like, I didn't like when you go to Jurassic Park in this game. Like, that is the point in the game when they crank out the enemies.
That is the ultimate. That's the ultimate explanation of this game. I didn't like when you went to Jurassic Park. No explanation for what that means. It just happens.
Yeah, you just go down an elevator, Park. And now you're in the Neo Arc, which is Jurassic Park. Like, look it up.
Just like, hey, this is what we're doing. Like a working factory or something. You bring visitors. Who the hell they're bringing down? Are they selling them? Are they weapons?
Yeah, I would say weaponize them.
And just say, hey, would you like to buy an elephant?
Because that wasn't the point in the first game. The first game, they were being made by Eve to like as like the next evolution of the world.
Yeah, but this is
and also there was a thing about like,
throw out what you remember about the first game. This is something completely different.
And then like the whole thing in the first game went into the science of it. It was completely baffling, wrong science that didn't make any sense, where they were like, mitochondria are growing and taking over cells. And then this game is like the government is running these. Somehow they're controlling these monsters. I'll give them credit for at least like a lot of the monsters have like a cybernetic aspect to them in this game, where they have like little, cybernetic pieces on them to kind of like clearly like in terms of the design, they were like, we need to make this controlled by this government. But then they don't explain that in the story at all, where they're like, just to have the government be like, yeah, yes, we're like, even have like the stereotypical cliche Resident Evil villain speech where, Wesker comes out and he's like, ha, yes, like I was creating the mitochondria to sell across the world, Chris. Like, you need that scene.
Yeah, well, because I thought that's what Eve was doing, is they were using her to control, like very Resident Evil 7, they were using her to control all the mitochondria, but I don't know I can't remember if that's specifically what they said or if that's what you're supposed to take from it.
They do make comments that she's controlling them, because after you go and rescue her and you walk out of the area after she's running away, all the enemies in the area are useless. And that's when the game then replaces, then you have a cutscene and it does a Resident Evil 1 thing where all the monsters now are replaced with golems.
Yeah. Because isn't that when the Marines come in?
Right before all the golems show up, you have the coolest section of the game where they, after all this time, you've been here for hours and you've been calling, and there's a point where they're like, okay, we're sending the Marines, and you have to escape the place. You see a cool cutscene with all these golems just getting massacred by the military, and it's the best part of the entire game.
It's the scene that you've always wanted in Resident Evil, of the military gunning down zombies wholesale, like just like, this is the safe zone, and there's like 30 Marines just like zombie after zombie falling. Also, that like the Marines show up and they're just murdering golems left and right, and it's like, I fought golems. They need to take like 3 fucking clips of that goddamn M4.
I didn't fight a single one.
You gotta I mean, even just number 9, like you gotta work to put number 9 down until he just gets shot in the head like a bitch. But you gotta work to put number 9 down, and then these Marines show up and they're just like, fuck these golems, like 1 bullet 1 kill, bitch.
Yeah, number 9's boss fights were like 15 minutes long almost sometimes, just unloading into them.
And both of them are in the worst locations. At the first ones, I appreciate that they tried to add like an environmental aspect to it, where the first boss fight with him, you're on like a catwalk and you can shoot.
It's a cool fight.
It's kind of a cool fight. like he's like charging at you, and you can shoot those like electrical panels and shock him.
And you can electrocute them, then you can shoot a thing and blow them up near the end. Like
the thing you shoot, by the way, is the bomb. that's what you shoot if you want to blow them up. It's the bomb in the building, which I'm no expert, but if you want to blow up a building, maybe put the bomb at the bottom floor, not the top floor.
And there's only
right?
2 boss fights in this entire game that have like something you can shoot. That fight, and then the fight with the horse thing that I hated in the mines that have like something you can blow up in the boss fight to hurt the boss. One thing we should mention is like that whole part that we kind of talked about where you find Eve. Eve's this little girl that was controlling the monster that's in like a weird room that looks like a kid's room, but they were like brainwashing her and stuff. And like when you first see her,
she's 11 from Stranger Things.
Yeah, pretty much. Kyle's gonna shoot her. Like you have to stop Kyle from he's about to murder her. And when you take off the mask, she looks just like Aya, and that's when you start realizing that she's a clone.
Yeah, the problem with that is it's still a Japanese game, and so they're like blonde female protagonist and this child who's also blonde and female, and you're like, is she supposed to look like Aya, or do they just run out of character models? Like
her real name is Sherry Birkin.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, but if Sherry Birkin might have been a clone of William Birkin, but they never tell you.
They really did like their catwalk fights in this game, didn't they? With the big dude at the motel, and then at the end against, I don't know, whatever the hell that thing was.
Brahmin.
Yeah, Brahmin. The Brahmin.
That's his name. It makes he has the guy called him the ultimate being, but the ultimate being was in the first person. He was a little baby. It's the whole game is leading up to. This is just some random monster that apparently absorbs something, and now they don't explain it.
Yeah. That shows up in every fucking Japanese game, and I don't understand it. Where they're like, "I've created the ultimate being," and it's like it's either like a weird like squishy fetus thing, or it's like a giant metal monster. And like the tyrants in Resident Evil, like that's the thing. Like at the end, Wesker's like, "It's the ultimate creature, the tyrant," and you're looking at it, you're like, "This is the ultimate being. This is like, this is the next level of evolution for you. This is what your idea of it is." Like, I just want to delve into your psyche for a second. Like, this is what you think ultimate power looks like.
He read a lot of Lovecraft when he was growing up.
Yeah, the ultimate being is a giant metal like mitochondria monster that has a little girl on his shoulder. The ultimate being. Every Japanese game has that. Like fucking, that's like the whole thing in
Galarians
created the ultimate being. It's a 12-year-old that's psychic.
I have no idea what you're talking
Akira
about.
is like the ultimate being, and Akira is like giant flesh monster.
I don't know if you remember middle school, but 12-year-olds can be terrifying.
Yeah. But the idea of like a 56-year-old scientist, his idea of an ultimate being is a 12-year-old that can't control his body. Like that's the ultimate creature. It's like
puberty sucks, man. We all went through it.
That's your peak in life, like right at the height of hormonal puberty. That's when you're at your peak. That is peak being in the eyes of all old scientists. like my body's changing and I don't understand. He's a god.
Okay, a couple more things I do want to say about this game. Like, there's like after you do that military part, they kind of clear out a majority of the shelter, which had tons and tons of golems, and you go to a room that you
thousands of them.
Oh god, there are way too many. Like I tried fighting one, and then he showed up with 3 buddies. I said, "Nah, we're good." I just ran, and I never fought again the rest of the game.
It would be hilarious if like after that whole segment, like you did find a note, and it had like a list of the golems, and you fought number 9, and it goes all the way to like number 3,672.
Oh, there's also stealth ones in here that can grab you from behind, and all I could think of was Gray Fox. They scared the shit out of me a couple times.
So the golems they can turn invisible. They're like the ultimate soldier. They follow orders. You can duct tape guns to their hands. They still have they follow orders, but they're like still completely self-aware. Why isn't that the ultimate being?
Because the ultimate beings are big giant blobs that shoot lasers out of their chest after you blow off their head. Those are ultimate
going
beings.
through puberty.
Yeah.
Have you been paying attention?
That also
ultimate being in Parasite Eve I, like that thing was frightening.
That fall out of like giant cocoons for some reason.
But I do want to talk about one of the bosses that you fight. There's one part, like we were saying before, this game loves to copy every movie it could. You have a Star Wars part where you go into a room and all of a sudden it's like, you're infected, and it's trying to kill you. You have to jump through the trash chute to get out.
Okay, yeah, I was like the Star Wars part where you're infected. I didn't know where you're going with that.
Well, yeah, where you jump in the trash chute, then you get, and there's no Dagobah, but you have not Dagobah. No, what the fuck is that monster called?
The worm, the giant Sarlacc pit.
No,
the tentacle thing.
I think it's just called the garbage chute monster.
It has a name.
I'm gonna lose so much credit for that, but
it has a name, but I can't remember it at the moment. Peter would know it.
Monster. I apologize to. It's the Dianoga.
Okay, I knew it was a D, but I was like
the ultimate being.
That creature was a D.
Like that.
The eyeball squid, the ultimate being.
And when you fight this trash monster boss, again, this game is not generous with save points in the second half of the game. Like when you're in the shelter, like this game like thinks it's an RPG, but there are no save points. There are very few save points. And when you fight this boss, you can die instantly if you're stupid. Like you have to shoot him in the mouth when he's trying to suck you in. And I did it just for shit and giggles, just to see what would happen. I save state. He grabs you and he eats you. Instant death. And the whole fight, you have to, after you hurt him so much, you have to lure him into a room so you can shove him into a trash compactor and squish him. And it's just weird.
They wanted to do everything. They wanted to do every possible reference to every possible thing. Like this is the Star Wars part of the game. This is somehow predicted Stranger Things before it came out. This is the Stranger Things part. This is the Aliens part.
To their credit, they got a lot in 10 hours.
Yeah, they were somehow able to reference Alien Covenant, where fucking Andrew, whatever the fuck. What was the name of the stupid android in Alien Covenant?
I don't know.
The one who wants to have sex with himself.
Michael Fassbender, that
That's
guy.
the actor.
Yeah, I can't think of the android's name, but where Michael Fassbender is like, I've created the alien. It's the ultimate being. It can't reproduce without another species, and it can't speak, and it just kills everything. The ultimate being.
So there's some other
his name's David Walter.
David, that's it.
Yeah.
It's such a weird ass game. And even as you're getting close to the end of the game, after the military shows up, and you go into a room you've been in before, and that's when we kind of have talked about it throughout this episode. They shoot number 9, like this guy that he captures Eve at one point. He's been your enemy. Kyle just shoots him in the head, and that's the end of him.
He's just gone. It's like he read the script for the game, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to be in this anymore." It turns shoot me in the head. Come on, I'm not supposed to be here.
and Kyle is working with number 9, but he's been with you this whole time. Like it is so stupid. Like they're trying to sacrifice Eve to the ultimate being that we were talking about with the giant blob. It's so stupid.
The ultimate being.
Oh god! And that boss fight broke me. Like I play with save states, of course, because that's how I play games sometimes. And when I was doing that final fight, I got to a point where I said, "Fuck it, I'm done." I put in infinite ammo, infinite health, and I just went to town on the final boss. And I'm like, I'm done. I don't care anymore. This game fucking broke me.
I just read, and this is so dumb, and I hate this. But I just read that in the beginning of the game, there's a SWAT member that you see fucking with a bomb. Yes. And I didn't put it together that's probably Kyle.
Oh, I didn't put that together either.
Number 9. Because he's planting. Because I remember that scene of being like, why is the SWAT guy putting the bomb up?
It's never explained.
No, and it's so unimportant that you don't think about it at all. And he says something along the lines of this Nagita. And I remember the word Nagita because I was like, that sounds like a bad word. I don't think you're allowed to say that. And apparently, if you reverse it, it's Adigan, or his last name, Kyle Madigan.
That's stupid.
And if that's what they were going for, that is the dumb. Why would he say his name backwards? That doesn't make any sense. Imagine in Resident Evil if you come across Wesker for the first time, and he's dressed up like a zombie, and he's like, this damn Rexwa. It doesn't nobody does that. I've never once said my name backwards as a curse. I don't know if I've never heard of that, even in terms of a Japanese thing. That's some weird cultural thing. I've never heard of that.
We do say your name backwards on the show a lot, though, for some reason.
Trying to summon Candyman or whatever it is when you say your name backwards.
You mean Namadak?
Namadak.
Yeah, this is Namadak. That's actually how they summon him in the Jordan Peele movie.
So like it just makes no sense. Like, and like the final boss is broken into 2 parts. And again, like because it's a survival horror game, you can't like I was trying to do it, but I realized I fucked up and didn't equip the Magnum. Also, I just had other stuff in my inventory that I didn't need. And the way you fight the final boss fight, it's like you're playing the wrong game. Like you have this giant blob that you have to shoot, and he opens up. You have a weak point for like a couple seconds. You have to shoot him and then run, but you can't run that fast. And I couldn't get away from the blast multiple times, even with save states. I couldn't do it. I'm like, okay, there's something wrong when I'm save stating, and I still can't make it.
I just had a like serenity moment where I realized that Aya and Eve, they're the only people that are special in this universe, because if you say their names backwards, it's just their names. It makes sense.
That's what Kyle was trying to do. He was trying to be one of the team.
That's why Maya went bad, because you couldn't say her name backwards, but you can say Aya backwards.
And also this game, at like the final boss fight after you kill the giant blob is you fight Eve, but she looks like it's the little girl Eve, but then she kind of looks like Eve from the first game, like it's the same kind of fight. So it's tank control. It's so stupid.
It doesn't make any sense.
And then she's good. Like you beat her, the game ends, and everything's fine.
And then, yeah. You beat her, and then you adopt her, and I guess the Shadow Government and Mist, they're just like, oh, yeah, you deserve it. This girl almost destroyed the entire world and has been brainwashed by the Shadow Government for her entire life.
Yeah.
But yeah, fuck it. You can just adopt
because
her.
Rupert pulled some strings and created a profile for Eve claiming that she's Aya's sister.
Yeah. Who's been dead for 20 years and also came back to life and terrorized New York. That's a good idea.
And Eric Baldwin was discovered to be a mole for the Shadow Government and was ultimately locked behind bars for treason, courtesy of Aya learning so from Pierce.
I thought you were going to say something completely different. I thought you were going to say he was discovered another one of the Baldwin twins.
I got another ball. That'd be a good game.
Like that final fight was a nightmare with that the catwalk and all. There's just no room to move.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Anywhere.
Just imagining the scene from Backdraft. Isn't that like Steve Baldwin or something at Backdraft?
Oh, yeah.
That's like the bad guy on the catwalk.
Like I said, this game feels like it wants to be like the bosses are in one game, you're in a survival horror game, and they don't mesh together.
Just realized I spoiled Backdraft. Sorry, everybody.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, Kurt Russell movie. It's great. It's good. Yeah. Nice movie about firefighters.
Yeah.
It's got a happy overtone.
It's William Baldwin, not Steve Baldwin.
And also,
other Baldwin brothers.
I didn't get the true ending because I apparently missed one of the steps, even though I was trying to do it. Apparently, on September, a year after the game finishes, they go to some museum and Kyle.
I think they go to the museum from the first game, the Natural History Museum.
Oh yeah, American. Yeah.
That place of happy memories for them.
and Aya and Kyle begin a romantic relationship.
Gross.
Which apparently is in the third game, but I don't want to read too much because I want to play that game someday.
No.
I love on the wiki it says. First of all, apparently Kyle has a prosthetic leg, which I don't remember that at all.
That's never mentioned ever.
Yeah. Well, apparently he has to get a prosthetic leg after he gets injured.
There's a scene. Oh, I also forgot. Like during that scene when he shoots number 9, he also shoots you in the shoulder to show them that I'm on your side. And when the game picks up after that, you lose that. You have less health because he shot you. I'm like,
oh my god, this is the funniest goddamn thing I've ever read. Okay. The happy ending for this game. Keep in mind, this game came out in 1999. But the happy ending for this game, it ends with them going to New York to start a trip on September 1st, 2001.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. What the fuck?
They're not having it. And this game came out in 99, so their day's not going to go well that day.
What the fuck?
That would be the worst day
happy
to visit New York. I mean, she's from New York, but still, like that.
10 days before 9/11 happens, they start a 2-week trip to New York City. Jesus Christ. This game fucking hates everybody.
So you're telling me Parasite Eve would have been, instead of the terrorists and our all mitochondria monsters? Is that how Parasite Eve should have?
I'm saying if Parasite Eve had started 10 days later, the ending of the game would have been Eve and I and Kyle watching 9/11 happen, and that would have been the happy ending of the game. That is like the darkest shit I've ever heard.
I didn't think about that, but that is pretty damn dark. Like,
keep in mind this game came out 2 years ahead of time. Fucking hell.
The real happy ending is the friends we made along the way, apparently.
Oh, God.
I can't throw too many stones at that. I joined the army in October of 2000. I thought, what's the worst that can happen?
Oh, fuck.
Well, surprise.
The bad ending of this game is I am not going to New York. What the fuck?
Yeah, the bad ending, she wakes up, looks for Kyle, and he's not there.
Oh my god. That would be a great like that'd be so much of a better game though. Like that happens and like they're just in New York when that happens, and there's also like an outbreak or something. She's got to deal with it. It's just complete chaos rather than let's go spend a fucking month in the goddamn desert. Like, oh my god, this game is like a fucking fever dream.
Before we go to questions or memories, any last things you guys want to say?
What the fuck is this game?
Okay, that sums it up just fine.
That's my question to everybody. What the fuck is this game?
I got
Who's Kyle
to read.
Who's what's happening?
Well, two things that I want to say quickly that had nothing to there are other modes to this game. When you beat it, there's a nightmare mode where everything's harder, and there's other stuff. I don't know because I never played them, never will.
Well, I guess I should ask Ian a question since you played the Japanese version. Were enemies as spongy in that game? Because usually when it comes to America, they try to make it harder. So
it felt real similar to when I played it again recently. You know, you're just shooting sometimes, and you think, well, what the hell? And the ammo boxes were still as plentiful in the Japanese version as they were in the American version.
Okay. Yeah, because I always wonder that, because I know, like, famously Capcom does it on purpose too. They try to make Resident Evil games harder in America to dissuade like renting them, especially when that was a thing. So
when was that a thing? I don't remember. Sorry.
You remember?
Yeah, they still do that.
I don't know.
Like, is Resident Evil?
Can you rent games anymore?
Redbox, does that count? Where you get broken games or you get a paper disc sometimes?
Isn't GameFly still a thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
GameFly, yeah.
You can still rent games. I'm mostly being joking just to be joking, but yes.
Could I buy a Could I buy a copy of Resident Evil 2 Remake in Japanese? Like, I wonder if that's the same game.
I'm sure you can order it somehow. But will it run on your PS4? I don't know.
I'm really curious about that. Yeah.
When I played through, I worked at this, mom and pop video game store, and we had these little cards that you put into the IO port in the back of your PlayStation, and a little spring that you'd stick into the tray where the little pin would go down to let the system know that it was, that the lid was closed, and so the spring made the system think that it was closed. And so what happened was it would read the initial part, like that PlayStation startup music and everything. You take the American disc out and you put the Japanese disc in, and that's how you would trick it into thinking that it was playing something for your country.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, like the original PAL cheat, basically.
Yeah. So I ended up playing a bunch of stuff that way. Like
now we just have VPNs. It's so much easier.
Like Macross and Parasite Eve II and a couple other just weird random. And again, I had no idea what the hell was happening in any of these games. But
oh my god,
don't feel bad. I played Parasite Eve II in English. I have no idea what the hell was going on.
I just realized that if you played Parasite Eve in Japanese and you somehow managed to get the good ending, then the only thing you would understand about the entire game is them being in New York and the ending coming up and it saying September 1st. And that would be, and you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, that'd be the one thing in the game that you understood.
I was kind of talking to Michael a little bit over the last couple of days, and I pointed out that, for all the weird flaws in these games, those opening sizzle reels were stunning with the music.
They're still bizarrely good. Like they're like, they show their age for sure, but they're still impressive.
Yeah, they still are good. And I remember one reason why a lot of people probably bought this game is there's a shower cutscene in this game where they make it look like they trick. I remember my friend had to show that when we were teenagers, had to show me that part. It's like, you think you're going to see nudity, but there's no nudity. But it's just, I wonder how many people bought that game because of that.
I want to point out Yeah, also, I have a question about that too. I don't know if you know the answer at all, Mike. But before I ask that, I want to point out that like the point of the game with like the elephant, which is the satellite, not the elephant monster, the elephant satellite, because everything has to be confusing. The satellite that like targets the facility you're in and it blows up like the big mass of mitochondrial like cocoon. That scene is fucking awesome. That's still really cool looking.
Yeah, cutscenes are good.
Like it hits that goddamn. It hits like the cocoon and like, despite the fact that like the cutscenes in this game have their age, like when it hits it, it has like the debris flying everywhere, like the glass crashing down. That looks really, really good. It's like still an impressively done scene to this day. Like the faces, like, you know, you got like the Gumby rubber faces showing up a little bit, like Polar Express situation, but like you see what they're going for, and just seeing what they're going for is still really awesome. Like when you come across the first citizen who turns into the monster, and it's like her shirt rips open with like spikes coming out the back, and
yeah, it's really good still.
The like kangaroo legs is a little bit weird, but other than that, like it's a really like cool scene.
But if you compare it to Parasite Eve from even a year before, the graphical jump is real impressive.
It's shocking.
It's, you know, between just her in-game model and just her face in the cutscenes, between like that, you know, anime big eye look that she has in the first one compared to, you know, a more humanized eye in the second one.
Yeah, they like in the first game they were clearly going for like we're just gonna put this game out there. We don't like the cutscenes aren't really important. And in this game they were like really ambitious. They were like, fuck it, we're gonna do like Akira level like body horror.
Well, they put all their money in the cutscenes. They went, story. Who needs a story? Who needs good gameplay?
Maybe, but like those cuts, like I was watching the cutscene of the first lady like transforming again, like her like lips rip open and you see all of her jaws, and it's a really cool scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The monster's kind of dumb looking, but like her transforming is really cool.
Definitely.
I mean, the whole idea is that the monsters are just can disguise themselves as humans now, where before, like in the first Parasite Eve, they're obviously monsters when you see a bloody polar bear or a rat that's the size of a dog. Like, you know there's something wrong here.
It's worth mentioning that the developer for, I think, Third Birthday very recently was like he was like doing an interview or something, and he brought up how like he would love Parasite Eve to come back because he's interested in these characters. Just seeing like what they were trying to go for with these cutscenes, a remake of this game I think would be phenomenal. I would love to see what they like, how they translated this today.
Don't worry, that'll never happen.
I kind of want it more than that Dino Crisis remake. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
oh, wow.
That's never happened either. So,
well, yeah, but between the two, I think I would rather have a Parasite Eve, because imagine it done like imagine those cutscenes done like really seriously with great like modern graphics. You could come up with some really cool shit that was like legitimately terrifying, like some great body horror.
Yeah, they'd probably release part 1 and then you'd have to wait 10 years for part 2 though. Which,
yeah.
Kind of what they're doing now.
Why does Squaresoft not do bundles like Capcom and Konami and everyone else? They have some great games, but to replace them, it's, you know, you got to sacrifice your soul and your first child.
They don't re-release them. Like, this game has only been re-released on PSN and only probably works on PS3 and PSP. Like,
it only works on PS3. Oh yeah, and PSP. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, they won't work on Vita, which shouldn't be that hard to make it work on a Vita, I feel like, but you know, I don't really
well, you'd have to find a working Vita first.
Hey, a lot of people hack them.
They had some great games around that time. Parasite Eve, Einhander, you know, a couple others at the time.
Urge-Eye, Xenogears,
Brave Fencer, a couple other ones, but you can't find them, and the people that do have them are selling for like $250, $300. I mean, a copy of American version of Parasite Eve II physical was running what, like 100, 150?
I didn't look that up, but it's not worth it.
It is weird that Square is like, what they focus on is bizarre to me, because they have so many games under their like umbrella. And that was not intentional.
I know it worked.
They have so many games under their corporation. Fuck.
It didn't work either. That was still.
But like, I mean, I'm trying to think. The only remakes they've done recently are like they did the Trials of Mana remake, which I think I'm the only one that actually really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
and that,
I didn't play it, but a lot of people seem to hate it.
A lot of people did like it. I liked it. I thought it was like really cheesy and fun.
Well, it's a Super Nintendo game. Like, it's not. That's just what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. But like, Square just needs to. They need to like go back and just start like remaking some of their old games. or just like give it to another studio, like remake like Chrono Trigger or Xenogears. I know Mike would be happy with that.
Xenogears, yes. Chrono
Xenogears
Trigger,
would be
you can't remake perfection. I mean, it's perfect the way it is.
I don't know. They've remade Resident Evil 4 like 7 times.
They just re-released it.
They ported it to like a billion different systems.
Well, remember about 15, 20 years ago, they were remaking all the Final Fantasies into like compilations, but none of those ever ended up being all that great.
No, they look
Yeah.
what I remember.
Yeah, is it if they just like bad? Is it just that they're like afraid to like every time they do it, they tend not to sell well or they tend not to be reviewed well? I wonder if they're just like afraid to go back to like some games because like they did Trials of Mana, which was a bigger game, and that wasn't received particularly well. So I wonder if they're like, well, we're not even gonna bother with Parasite Eve because that's not like a beloved franchise.
We're never getting another one, and not happening.
I mean, it'll be a while. I think we will.
Third Birthday came out in 2010, 10, 11, 12 years after 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it also didn't do good.
Yeah.
The thing is, I never want to say we're never getting another game because, like, basically, look at what Hollywood's doing right now.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, we're out of ideas. We're just going to... I mean, to be fair, Hollywood's getting better. A lot more, like, independent, interesting, original movies have come out recently in the last, like, 5 years. But there was a good period from, like the 30 years, basically, where Hollywood's like, fuck it, let's just remake everything. Because we don't have anything. And the video game industry is still, as big as it is, it's still kind of new. Like it's still a newer industry that's
newer
that's just figured itself out. That sounds weird to say because it seems like they know what they're doing, but they've kind of just figured out how to reach like an insanely wide mass audience. So it wouldn't surprise me if there comes a point where they're like, we're out of fucking video game ideas. We did all of them, so let's just start remaking everything.
Well, the problem is it takes like 3 or 4 years to make a game sometimes. So they could be in that period right now. We just won't know it until 2024.
And they're remaking some games now. Like they're remastering like Tony Hawk. Like who knows? Like it's so iffy with games because when you remake a movie, the ideal scenario is that it's a different movie with the same themes. So like a bad example of that is like The Thing prequel, which was essentially just a remake of The Thing. They're like fuck all the themes and the smart stuff about the first movie. Fuck all that. We're just gonna retell it, but without any heart.
Yeah,
that didn't do well. But like,
why would you ever take out practical effects and use CGI when you've already shot the practical effects? You fucking morons.
But if you look at the original, not the original, but if you look at the John Carpenter's The Thing, that was a remake of another movie.
Right.
That was totally different. They just took the paranoia and the themes of it and they made it into the John Carpenter's The Thing. That's what you want to do with a movie. With a game, it's like completely different. You can't remake a game and like just capture the themes. You have to remake what people's memory of playing that game was. So like a big one was like when they started remaking the Call of Duties and like remastering them and putting it out there.
Yeah.
It was like they just put it back out there. And the big fear was like, oh, people were going to hate this because people's memory of playing Call of Duty and what the actual mechanics are so different. You have to make a game based on how people remember playing the game. The Final Fantasy remake is like the best example of that right now. People like imagine getting off the train and storming that like Shinra facility, and they made the game based on how people remember that happening. When in reality, in the game, it was like a 5-minute scene,
and it looked like trash.
Yeah. And it
not back then, but now it does.
Yeah, now it looks like garbage. But your memory of it is like it was this giant event, like you stormed the Shinra facility and took over and blew it up, and it's this insane like affair that happens.
Well,
and like that's what you gotta do.
Yeah, that I was just gonna say that even speaks to like doing sequels like this one. Like you have that memory of the first game and how it played, and if you're gonna go in a new direction like Resident Evil did with Resident Evil 4, you have to be sure that it's something that's great. Like this new direction in this game missed so many things on the mark. It was clear that they didn't know what they were doing. Wasn't supposed to be a sequel. It's Like, you have to know what you're doing if you're going to do something like that.
But you think about it, that time period was kind of a weird, brave new world for video games anyway. I mean, I don't think they expected Final Fantasy VII to blow up over here the way they did. And they saw that and they said, oh my God, these cutscenes are what people are buying this game for. And maybe, that caused a quick retooling on Parasite Eve II as well.
Yeah, that, and like also, I mean, all the things that were coming out they had to compete with, which was like Dino Crisis, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, all the other crappy horror games that nobody remembers.
Overblood.
Oh God, that was a golden time, man.
Yeah.
Jeez. It's Capcom is so weird with that too, because Capcom in particular, like, you could say that they've had as many misses as they've had hits, probably more misses than they've had hits realistically with Resident Evil. But like Resident Evil 7 is a great example of like a sequel to a game, because it's a completely different game. Resident Evil 7 is nothing like Resident Evil 1, but they just capture that same feeling of like terror and stress that's like constantly hanging over you. And that's why it feels more like an original Resident Evil game than Resident Evil 4, which is also great, but it doesn't feel like an original Resident Evil.
That's a great example of going to a different location, though. Like in Parasite Eve 2, when you go to Dryfield, and like I was saying earlier, it just feels like nobody lives there. Well, why the hell is nobody there? You take the plantation house or whatever that is in Resident Evil 7. Oh, there's only 5 people living here and they're all crazy as fuck. There's a reason why nobody else is around except the sheriff, who has issues later on in the game.
Yeah.
Right.
And in that game, they do the brilliant thing of, we're not going to have like the notes system quite the same. We'll have notes, but really how you're discovering the story is through the VHS tapes, which you get to play. This game needed to do something like that, where they're like, we're not going to do the car ride exposition thing, but we'll supplement that by having like characters like talk, like you save on the phone. I thought that was going to be a really cool system, because when you save, Pierce talks to you. I thought it would have been so cool if every time you like found one of those things to save, you would call into Mist and be like, here's what's happening. Here's what I think. Like shit's hit the fan. And you have somebody over there, like your Overwatch or like Hunnigan from Resident Evil being like, all right, like here's the information you need. Like we're hacking into the system when we figure it out, like what these creatures are and why they're here. Or, like, we don't know, but you need to go figure it out. And here's the story. They don't have any of that.
Because the other thing, she's a government agent. Why the hell doesn't she have a cell phone? It's 1999.
Or like a walkie-talkie, or like some reason. Like some explanation.
That's how they cure all that. And titles around that time. Oh, yeah, I'm saving on my cell phone, or I'm contacting you through the cell phone. I mean, I guess maybe there was the no reception thing would make a lot of sense, because
but they have the payphones in there that Pierce is always calling you on somehow. He knows exactly where you are. But like they make a big deal out of like Aya has her car. Like she hasn't upgraded to like the nice police cars. She has her car that she loves. Like, okay, throw a fucking radio in that thing and have her call in and be like, all right, Aya, like we've been interrogating some guy we found at the site, and he says that so-and-so is doing this. He says that like he thought he saw somebody that looks like Kyle Madrigan. And then suddenly you have a suspense in the story. It's like, oh, Kyle is bad, but you're not sure why, or you don't know why he was there. And it adds mystery. It adds story. Like, you need to do something like that for a game like this.
There's even like a hidden cutscene too. Like, I want to say when you're at the early part of Dry Fields, where Kyle Pierce goes to the bar, and if you don't go to the bar and talk to him, you completely miss the cutscene. But if you do go to the bar, you get the cutscene that still gives you nothing. So
he's drinking.
It's like a missed opportunity.
Yeah,
it's like just such a weird ass game.
And they want him to be the love interest so badly. And it's like, you gotta add some dialogue in, add some story into this game that's supposed to be like, the first game is brimming with exposition to the point that you're almost wanting to get out of it to experience the combat. But they explain so much. In this game, they're like, we're going to go the exact opposite direction. All combat, no story. But the result is you have no idea what's going on. That middle ground needs to be reached.
I think we should go to questions, memories, or comments. I have a couple, actually.
That's kind of surprising.
From the Parasite Eve fan
in the nicest
group,
way possible. I mean,
from Edgar Santana, he said, Parasite Eve 2 was a missed opportunity. You are 100% right, sir.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
From Andreas Montoya, greetings from Mexico. This game I have played since childhood, and to date is still one of my favorites. I think there are many loose ends that we can investigate, and that today nobody has solved them about this game. I highly recommend it. That's because I don't care about this game.
That's not necessarily a compliment of the game. That's what I like about that. Is I love this game because it tells you nothing.
From Thomas Sabalo, I played it and loved it. I'm glad that someone did. I did not.
I did not enjoy it, for the record. I did enjoy the game. I just wanted more for it.
I enjoyed what I understood.
Yeah.
You played it the right way, though. So, from Heather Cartwright, highly recommend this game, too. I played it a few weeks ago, and it brought back such nostalgic, and I actually remember what to do. I wish I had nostalgia for this game. I would have enjoyed it more.
I wish I knew what to do.
From Mas Leopold, I don't know. I remember getting lost at the shelter, then buying a strategy guide. What a time!
Sometimes Mike just gives up on names before you.
I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. And from Celine Leclerc, Parasite Eve II was the first video game I played, and it definitely triggered my love for survival horror. You can only go up from here almost.
I was literally about to say the same thing.
Can't go down.
Going back to that guy that bought the strategy guide, there's nothing that really exists on this game now on the internet. There was sure as hell nothing on the internet to help you out, back in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, my friend, he was taking some real basic Japanese in high school, so he could kind of understand a little bit. They don't really teach basic firearms, speak in high school Japanese.
He can pretty much tell you where the bathrooms were in the game world.
Yeah, except they were labeled in English, thank God. So, there was just nothing to go on, and we were just struggling. I think we played it for like 48 hours straight or something, trying to figure it out. But
wow,
I can't. I mean,
were you in a version of hell and came back to life or something?
I was my own Sisyphus.
Okay.
You were the powerhouse of the cell on this one.
Yeah. That's why they call him Ian Brea. I wonder for a game like this, I wonder if it's like kind of a similar situation to Knights of the Republic 2, where that game was released unfinished, but they made the strategy guide while they were like figuring out what to cut out of the game. So the strategy guide actually has more information in it than the game does.
Jeez.
I wonder if Parasite Eve 2 is a similar situation of like the strategy, you got to buy the strategy guide to find out what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, that's the problem with strategy guides today. They're kind of disappearing. Like, I don't buy them, but I'm glad they're a thing. I kind of hope they stay
They're
around.
disappearing. I don't buy them, but people do.
Yeah.
It's like you wish that cookie store down the street was still open. I never went there, but it seemed like a really nice
People
place.
told me it was great. The greatest cookies we've ever seen. I never eaten there, but I heard they were great cookies.
Great community.
I have long said that, or at least long held this belief that that game companies, when they release a game, they should take some people like from the core developers, and they should have like pay them a little extra and be like, all right, you're gonna like write the first pages of the wiki. You're gonna set that up, because that's essentially what like a strategy guide is today, is the wiki. Like, they like when Skyrim comes out for the 30,000th time. Or like, when the next Elder Scrolls come out, they should be like, all right, like Dave, Steven, like you guys like know the story of the game, so, and you have some experience like writing, so we're gonna have you go over here and write the wiki and like just get some basic information on there and set it up for people.
Like, this would be like, playing Dark Souls when it first came out. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. Game doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's a little better done than Parasite Eve 2, but it's just, there's sometimes just nothing on these games that you're trying to get through.
Yeah. You can tell, like, that's one of the best ways to tell like how beloved a game is to look online for information for it. And if you like, there are games that we played on this show where I've pulled up, every time we play a game, I pull up like information that I can find. I pull up like maybe an article, usually the Wikipedia page, usually a couple of wiki pages, anything I can find on it. And there are games where like I am sure that I have all the information that exists open on my computer, and it's like 3 tabs. And we just got like, I was like, all right, I guess I gotta really pay attention this time.
One of them's an old Angel Fire page.
Oh, there have been some old forum sites I've pulled up, sir.
All right, I got a couple more. I got one more to read from that group. From John Constantine. First, I played 2, and wow, played it so many times. I lost several against the muzzle and the garbage monster. Epic all the battles and played without guide in those times. I give you credit, sir. Then I played 1 and fell in love with the saga. I enjoyed 1, 2, and 3. In my heart, they will always be. So,
well, that's
I'm glad
an opinion.
somebody enjoyed this game.
Again, I did not enjoy it.
All right, we're almost there. We're very close to Upper Box.
I feel the same way about Watch Dogs.
Yeah, I really enjoy Watch Dogs.
Watch Dogs is a good game.
I really like that game, but it's not what it was supposed to be.
Still Parasite Eve.
That's the nicest thing I can say about Watch Dogs. Is I love Watch Dogs, but man, that game was not what we were promised. People talk about No Man's Sky, but Watch Dogs really ahead of the curve on fake advertising.
All right. And from the Laser Time group, from Chris Lichoch, I know I pronounced that wrong. The first is a classic. 2 was pretty damn disappointing, honestly. 100% right. From Jeffrey Klein, play 1 instead, but 2 is still okay. We did play 1, and it was much better. From Matthew Ladwig, I haven't played 2. I'm actually playing through the first one now with my daughter. I'm curious how old your daughter is.
That's interesting. I was
traumatized when I played this at like 12 years old. So
I need to call CPS on this person.
And from Ricardo Perry, all I remember is this artwork, which is the half-naked Aya with the jacket on covering her nipples.
Oh God, that's right.
Yeah,
with the unbuttoned jeans.
Yeah.
Which is what I posted in Overblood.
That's the actual original artist from the first game who came back after they fired the artist they hired for this one. So that's why it's all mixed. So you did get that from the original guy.
I love that, like, the graphic design, like the cover art and everything they did for this game is so far removed from the way the game is. Like, I even read something on the wiki itself. There's like a personality thing for Aya, and it's like, Aya, like, she doesn't feel the need to be like sexy. She's fine wearing like fine wearing the outfit. That is, Scorch. She's fine wearing the outfit that's most suited to the conditions she's going into.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's a great character trait for like a female protagonist in a game, to not be like, you know, I'm going to go fight zombies, and also my boobs are huge. To be like, no, I'm going to fight these monsters. I need to wear something appropriate for the desert. And then
like jean jacket.
Yeah, jean jacket, which is appropriate for the desert according to the game. But then the cover art for the game is like, check out Aya, she's the hottest.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Look at her black dress that she doesn't wear.
For Parasite Eve 2, the PAL, the American, and the Japanese version, they all basically have the same cover art for the CD case, don't they? That almost never happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's, you know, a lot of times they change them. I got a couple more to read.
They did a concept art for Aya where she's like, it's like a weird giant beanbag chair in her underwear. I'm like, that is not her character in the game. At no point is she like, I'm just gonna lounge around almost naked.
How do you say your love sex?
That was a lot of innuendo coming at me at once.
All right. From Nick Turner, he said, I finished this, but not the first one. Borrowed on a friend's recommendation for the shower scene, but got invested in the game way before that. It's a little stiff to play, but I still enjoy it.
You played it for a shower scene?
Yeah, all right. People did. My friend had a save just to show me the shower scene. That's what, and he was talking about it. Like,
you have to.
Again, the internet wasn't normal where if you want to go see porn, you just go on the internet and it's like boom, boom, boom. It wasn't like that back then.
Isn't that why everybody watched Street Fighter, the animated movie?
Longer.
That's true.
Yeah, you have to remember, Stefan. Remember when Mass Effect first came out and people lost their minds because there was a sex scene at the end of it? Like, it was on the news. The news was talking about how it was going to erode the youth of America because there was a sex scene that was like something you could show in like on daytime television in the middle of Dawson's Creek. Like, it was the tamest, most boringest sex scene ever. And
but
people
hot coffee. Yeah,
no, that wasn't that tame.
Out.
Well, that's the thing too. Like sex in video games, it's like it looks fucking weird. It maybe shouldn't even be in the game because it just doesn't look right ever.
I'm kind of with you on that. Like I get the idea of it being like, oh, we want to make this game sexy. It's like you can make a game sexy without having a weird disjointed sex scene. Like, I would argue that Mass Effect is a weirdly sexy game where they're like, you know, all the fucking outfits are going to be skin tight, like rubber suits, and Captain Commander Shepard will have a massive codpiece in all 3 games. But you don't need to have the sex scene where like the character models are glitching through each other.
Yeah, like fade to black over and over again. One expression, fade to black. Another
all right, got another comment to read from Curtis Lemonix. God, I pronounce all these names wrong. I love the vibe of 2. Made me want to move out in the middle of nowhere desert. I broke my check the week it came out and destroyed it. I always see this as a nice trip, especially since 3rd birthday was a disappointment. How does it live in the middle of nowhere, Stefan? Is it nice living in the desert, or?
It depends.
How many mitochondrial monsters have you had to kill this week?
Oh God!
Well, he quit his job, so he doesn't run into them anymore.
Okay.
I mean, he ran. Hey, I swear, some of the people you ran into might have been mitochondrial monster from the stories you were telling us. So
yeah, I've definitely seen some weird bits.
The guy in the suit.
It would not surprise. It would not shock me if you like showed up on the podcast one day. You were like, "Yeah, I was at the gas station, and fucking kangaroo dog monster walked in. Weirdest thing.
Kangaroo dog monster.
Oh god,
Weird kangaroo giraffe came in and bought a fucking 40 and left.
He wouldn't have buy the 40. Man, can I bum it off you? I just want to bum it off you.
Yeah.
I'm never paying you back. I just want to steal this, but I'm going to use the word bum instead, like we're friends.
You know how this is a place of business and your only existence is to provide services and products for money? Yeah. Can I just have it for free?
Yeah. It's those damn scorpions always trying to get free soda off me.
You as a part-time cashier surely have the authority to determine the pricing of this product at this corporate location. Like every single fucking retail customer. This milk's too expensive. I don't fucking price it.
They're trying to give you management experience by having you differently price the products.
Can you listen? I know you're a fucking 16-year-old part-time employee that's barely holding on to like your hormones, but can you call the CEO of the company and let them know that this milk is a little overpriced?
I'm sure. What do you mean I have to have a shirt and shoes on to enter this public space? I thought it was okay just to wear my pants loose and open, my ass hanging out.
You're not kidding, are you? From something that happened, huh?
He's got the Aya Brea look.
You mean I have to act like a decent human being? I thought this was America.
Okay, a couple more to read, then we're going to wrap up and go to Shelf or Box.
You're going to do an episode about that soon, by the way.
We are soon, yeah. Things just happened in my personal life that made me have to put that off. From Aaron Cooten, decent game, doesn't match the original, very different, far more RE feeling, still has its moments. I agree with everything you said, but maybe not the decent game. But from Greg Fairchild, overall an okay game, lost a lot of the tone from the first one. From Michael K. Hughes, friend of the show, I'm sure all the horned up advertisements sold me on this game. Can't imagine why I would have played 2 without playing 1. Because you play bad games, sir. That's all I got.
Michael likes bad things. That's why he listens to the podcast.
That's why he's been on some of the worst games. Well, no, we did Alien Infestation and Raccoon City, so...
I got him for Secret Santa 2 years in a row.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I get I think I got Angel one year. Angel's a listener of the show for sure. I forgot to do it last year though. I was so upset.
I did it last year, I think. I don't remember. Okay, and last one I'm going to read from Levy Russell. To Parasite Eve II is the first game that made me realize I was interested in women.
Actually,
fun game.
That's a very funny comment,
but not horrible. Still a blast to play now and then, even if it doesn't quite carry the vibes from the first.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that statement. Everyone goes through it. It's perfectly natural.
I lost myself. I was trying to say what's funny is that Tiffany, Mike's wife, actually got me for a Secret Santa like a couple of years ago before we ever even knew each other.
Yeah.
And I still have like some of the shit she gave me on my shelf right now. She gave me the Legend of Zelda like poster things.
The thing that I made that and then
you made those? I didn't know you made those.
Yeah, I took images.
They're sitting on my goddamn shelf. I didn't know you made those at all. What the fuck?
Wow. Yeah, we've been doing this for over a year. I brought it up before, I'm sure.
They're literally they're right behind my fucking desk, like eye level with me. I see them every day. I had no idea you made those.
Yeah, any of those collage things that the prints that I've sent you, those are all I just designed them myself.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, you sent me like 10 of those, didn't you, Mike, or something?
Yeah. I just went and printed up a bunch of them, and yeah.
Do you ever post those in the group? I don't think I've ever seen that.
I never. I might appear in there. It was a long time ago. I used to design a bunch of them, but then I had plans to do more, but then nothing ever happened with them. And then I started a podcast instead.
Oh well, that's one creative outlet.
I might post at some point. There were some cool things to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say it's 6 months till Christmas, but today I just broke my favorite R2D2 mug, and I'm really sad. So if anyone wants to send me an R2D2 mug, that'd be
hey,
cool.
Look at the bright side. You have a half-naked co-host mug instead.
I thought you were gonna end at it. You have a half-naked co-host, and I was like, what? That's put some pants on, Mike.
I have pants on. I don't have a shirt on.
That's games I found after dark.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, we did a drawing that will someday be on a shirt, hopefully next month, and it's just me. It's Stefan drew like me, but the way the Stan Lee. There's a famous Stan Lee picture where he's half naked with a comic book over his junk, but instead it's me with I don't remember what over my junk. But
it's game my mom found like magazine or something. I don't know. Stu has to put the logo on it, or I don't know. We
just gotta put it up on the site. That was dumb. We might as well just put that on there. But
somebody will buy it. I'm sure somebody will wear a half naked me on their shirt.
I love that.
I will
because every morning I get up and I make some tea, and that mug is always gone, which means somebody else has taken it. And I don't know if they're aware of like any context for it.
It's what you should wear to your future interviews.
That is like the favored mug of the house. That one is always gone first.
Why?
I don't know.
We all do have a mug with Half Naked Mike on it.
I don't, but you guys do, yes.
I was in my garage drinking out of it the other day, and my neighbor went by and just looked at me funny, and I didn't realize why until I realized I was holding the mug facing out, waving at him. Hey, what's up?
All right, I think we should go to Shelf or Box because this has gone a long time. And Stu, why don't you go first? I forgot your name all of a sudden.
All right, Stefan. Yeah. I don't know. This is a weird game. This game is like I said, it was like a fever dream. The first game was
amazing.
It was amazing, and I ended up falling in love with it because it was so weird and so just out there and bizarre, and like the fucking plots that they like blew through were fascinating to me. And then this game came along and it was just like the exact opposite, where all like nothing was as interesting and they didn't really have any story, and they like what story they had, they were just like, it doesn't matter. So annoyingly, it's like just the visuals and the gameplay to rely on. And like the gameplay, I don't think was that great. I think like the areas were initially interesting. I liked LA a lot. Dryfield was like I said, it was initially interesting, but then you spent so long there and it became so boring. And then you go to like the Neo arc and the shelter, and I'm like, okay, this is new and interesting, but are we going to spend? I had that fear that we were going to spend another 7 hours just walking around this place. Like the game had like ruined me. But the visuals were really cool. I thought like the cutscenes were all really well done. There were some really cool moments that surprised me. Like Stefan brought up, the woman screaming in that abandoned house was like a really well done scene in the game. And that scream is like, it's like a horrifying scream. It's like a real legit scream. It's not like, Rebecca screaming off in the distance and Resident Evil. As much as I love that game, that voice acting is so cheesy. It was like screaming bloody murder. It sounded legitimately like heart-wrenching. So I don't know. I want to put this game on the shelf because I love the first one so much, and this is part of that series, but it didn't grab me the same way. So I think I have to put it in the box. It's very sad for me because I put so few games in the box.
One day I really should figure out I should really make an Excel sheet of everything we've said. But
yeah. I'm sorry, A is just not that sexy.
This game, it's off for some reason.
It's like fascinating, the disparity between like every aspect of this game. Like it seems like the developers weren't talking to like the marketing team at all, and then like the writers weren't talking to the like actual designers. I don't know how big the studio was, like how many people were working on this, but it felt like it's like a lack of communication happened that worked out so weirdly well for the first game. And this game, it was like lightning in a bottle, and then they just couldn't capture it again. I don't know. It's fascinating, but not necessarily in a good way to me. People enjoyed this game though, and I like the game. So don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a bad game. It just didn't grab me like the first one did.
It's just not a good game, maybe. How about you, Stefan?
Yeah, so that first game initially, I mean, even going back to like anything survival horror, whether it's Silent Hill or Resident Evil or Dino Crisis, it's always that first game where they have that great idea and people like it. And, whether it's totally clear where they're going to go next, or, or even the idea in the first game, if it's just all the way clear, which it wasn't in this case, the second game, you can build on it and, like bring new ideas to the table and give us a better setting and make it bigger and better, like they did with Resident Evil 2. You got out of the mansion. Now you're in a city full of zombies. So I don't know. With this game, it just felt like an amalgamation of things. You had like the enemies didn't feel quite the same or as interesting. They just felt like a mix of things. Like the fat dude was like a Doom character. Some of the enemies just looked ugly as shit too. Like they didn't even look fun to look at. Ibrea, I don't know why she got so thick, but I guess, when he hit the gym, she just had to I don't know.
It wasn't
I
even like
don't know.
muscular though.
Packed
Like,
on some
yeah.
polygons.
I just don't know like why they changed so much, because it's clear that whatever they did in the first game worked, and then now they just threw it all away. Like the RPG elements were amazing. That was one of the greatest parts of the first game. And here you don't have any of that. It doesn't make any sense.
It could be like a Suicide Squad thing where they had half of the game already in, and then when the director shifted over to the Resident Evil dude,
yeah, except for
here
it's
we
like
go.
every person in this game is like Slipknot, though. They just die at the beginning and nothing's good after it.
a game where everyone is Slipknot. Oh god,
That sounds like a terrible game.
that's an interesting theory, though. I kind of am bored with that, where like the developer came in and was like, "Fuck it, we're changing everything."
Yeah, it's like because then I even said this to Jesse, who's been on the show. I was like, oh, like I can't wait to experience Dryfield Hotel because I'm gonna do this and then we're gonna get back to the city. And he's like, oh, I have bad news to tell you. I'm like,
I got
what?
bad news for you.
Yeah, when I found out I wasn't going back to the city, I was like, what the hell were they thinking? Like, it's not fun living out in the desert. That's where I live. It sucks. So
Going back to the thing, why not? I like it there.
It's hell.
Stores.
But yeah, so that's they fucked us up so hard. I didn't actually hate the game. Like that initial opening and Dryfield, I was interested. Again, it had some creepy moments, but overall, like as you go on and on in the game, you're just like beaten down by it. It's just not fun. So I'm putting it in the box.
Okay, that's where it belongs.
I'm putting it on the shelf because Mike said that. I'm just kidding.
Too late now. I'll go next. I mean, this game, I was kind of tossed in the beginning because the Acropolis Tower is really good, and I was on board. But then as the game just progressed, I really fucking hated it. Like I like RPG games a lot. Like that's my favorite genre to play. But this game is not an RPG. This game is a amalgamation of I want to be Resident Evil, but we're gonna try to be. It's just it doesn't work for what they were going for, and because of that, I didn't have much enjoyment of it. I just wanted to beat it. I wanted it over with, and I'm never gonna play it again in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's going in the box. How about you, Ian?
This game, it holds a weird history for me. It's playing. It was with my best friend at the time, and so I have very rose tinted memories of it. And then I go back and I play. Like I said, I played through the first disc and. It's just such a weird thing. It's such an adventure of Link or a Super Mario 2 where it's we have this great first game and then we just flew wildly off course with the second game. And Adventure of Link is one of my favorite games of all time, again because of memories. But I would keep it on my shelf but probably never play it.
Yeah, It's just that nostalgia.
Yeah, it's like I love that first game. Those opening like I went back and I watched that first one and it just flooded back to me, especially that part where that doo and the dinosaur skull starts flapping open in the first sizzle reel, and going back and watching the second one and so I like again I have weird memories of this, and I played through it with my best friend at a weird time in video games, and I love the game. But I agree with you guys. It's not a good game.
Yeah, definitely. You know what, though? We did forget to say this, and I will support this part of it. It has a fantastic soundtrack. If anything, go listen to that.
If only it would just pump it more. There were so many times at the game where like the audio would go away from me. I don't know if it was just an issue I was having. Where like it'd be like a quiet moment in the game, like play the music. Just like that's what you're good at. Play the music. Also, I posted a picture, not just randomly. I had something to say about this. I posted a concept art for Aya Brea. I fucking hate the name so much. For Aya Brea, where she has way more of like an Olivier Armstrong from Full Metal Alchemist thing going on. Like she's jacked. Like that would have been a way cooler concept instead of like going halfway and making her like really like muscular but only in her back and still giving her the weird like that's a big thing in not just like Japanese like beauty standards, but all beauty standards is to have like really skinny small arms and really skinny legs, but they still wanted to make her muscular, so it just looked really odd. If they went with this concept art and just made her look fucking jacked, that would have been awesome. Like go all out, make it like fucking Commander Shepard coming in and kicking ass. Because
she was pretty willowy in the first game. You know, especially when you see her in the black dress at the opera in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but she's like, there's like explanation for that at least, or she's like, oh yeah, she's like kind of skinny and tiny, but I guess she's still a cop.
She was like 20 in that game, I think. She was NYPD and she was about 20 something years old.
And she was like new on the force.
Yeah.
Stay on the job.
And it was her night off. And then like, do like Leon Kennedy. Like he comes back in Resident Evil 4 and he's fucking jacked in Resident Evil 4 because like he's been done nothing but train for like 3 years so that he can rescue the president's daughter at the drop of a hat.
Or you could go one up into a Chris Redfield and fight boulders with how pumped you are.
But how awesome would it be for like this game to come in and you're not just a member of the do either FBI style, like you're investigating and you still got to fight this, but you're not like the strongest. You're more going in and investigating. And then you have that scene at the end of like, you've discovered everything and the Marines come in and you're just like burning through the facility. Like do it either that way or have her be like insanely jacked like this picture and just be kicking ass and make it more of like an action game. And I think that's like really the problem this game has is it's too many different things trying to happen at once.
They didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
She had a lot of potential to be like another Samus.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, she looks like fucking Samus Aran. Sorry. I always said Aran as a kid. I'm still getting over that. Yeah, she looked like fine. Samus Aran. Like she could have been such a badass. And instead of just like a character that kind of gets upstaged in her own game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did I miss it? Did you say shelf or box? I didn't think I heard, or maybe I wasn't paying enough attention.
I said I keep it on the shelf, but probably never play it.
Okay, that's it. Yeah. So we got one shelf out of us four. The three regular us hated it.
Yeah. God, we have to play the third birthday just so.
Oh, we are next year, June. I'm calling it now. We're playing the third birthday because we're gonna each year this podcast we play one in June, and then we'll never play a fourth one because there'll never be a fourth one.
Really, you know what's going to happen is like right as we play the third one, they're going to announce the fourth one.
That's fine. It'll still take us a year to get to more than a year to get to it.
We have to play the third one just because I want to talk about it so fucking.
All right, we're definitely gonna. Like I said, next year June I'll put it on the show. No problem.
It's so weird.
It's been on my list to play it for over a decade, so I might as well get around to it.
I might end up playing it before then because I've seen like so many screenshots of it, and I'm so confused by them that I have to know what's happening.
As long as the shirts are up, I'm happy.
Okay. Other side, the shirts are just gonna say like, it's just gonna be the cover art for the third birthday with like a question mark underneath of it.
That would be Golden Sun Lost Age with game my mom found question mark.
Oh, yeah.
The one game people have requested for us to play, multiple people have requested me, and we're just like, we should do that. We're all three like, yeah, we should do that. Well, me and you are like, we should do that. Stefan like, no, we shouldn't.
No, we shouldn't.
We never do.
I do want to. It's just so long,
and DJ's not here, so
I really enjoyed the first one. I think that was the first. It was a very early episode, but that might have been one of the only games that DJ and I like agreed on.
I haven't listened. I stay away from those early episodes because they're hard to listen to.
They're very bad. Just audio quality wise, they're terrible.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we were still learning.
I think content wise, we're still like we're finding our ground, but we're still like we're getting it really quickly. But audio wise, like I had no idea what I was doing. I was just trying my best. I was going way overboard on every audio. Like I was like, well, this is a cool thing. I should put this on there, and it just sounds like garbage. I have also we were recording on like shitty microphones, so even to begin with,
on the first episode I had the worst, and then I upgraded, and then I upgraded again.
Yeah, I still say I saved all those recordings, the original recordings. So if we ever want to like release them and try to clean them up a little better and see if we can put them out there better, it'd be interesting.
I just have to edit in me actually having good audio.
Yeah, that's why we couldn't hear Stefan for like 10 episodes.
I was just yelling into my tablet, and it was just like it was like I was in a canyon yelling at someone across it.
One of my favorite one of my favorite notes I ever got, I think it was from Sam, was like, I really like what Stefan's saying. I just wish I knew what it was half the time. Couldn't hear you at all. But the one thing he heard was like that you liked Resident Evil, and he was like, I like this guy. I want to hear what he says.
Sam's awesome.
All right, I think we need to wrap up this episode because I have to edit this, and I have a pizza coming, so I really need to finish this up.
Also, soon we should have like way better audio. Since we brought that up. we have figured out a new recording method that I believe will work way better. I just have to walk myself through it and figure out how to do it.
All right, and I should introduce what we're going to be talking about next week. We're going to be talking about a very wonderful game that I will not have played.
Third birthday.
I cannot get it to work. We're going to be talking about Soul Reaver 2 for PlayStation 2. And hopefully one of the four of us will be able to beat the game, because I sure am not going to.
You know what's funny is I have been so scatterbrained these past couple weeks that I saw that you were playing Soul Reaver 2. And it wasn't until that exact moment that I realized why you were playing it. I thought it was really weird that you were playing it because I didn't think it was on the podcast. And I've just been so out of it lately.
You know, we do put these seasons together. Like, I mean, it's been probably well over 6 months.
Oh yeah, no, it's been about 6 months since we put this list together. I have it on my phone, but I've been so busy the last couple of weeks. I was like, I legit saw you talking about it constantly on Facebook, and I was like, why the fuck is Mike playing Soul Reaver?
It's a really good game. I just wish I could experience it, but we'll get that next week.
I don't know what I thought was
Stefan,
next
you
week.
You have to beat it. Because I don't think I'm already know I won't be able to play it, so you have to beat it.
I'll beat it.
And Julian will be on that show, so we get Julian back.
Hey.
All right, and then I also want to give a quick shout. Well, first I want to thank Ian for taking time out to join us for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Can I ask, do you feel tired? Because I always feel tired at the end of every episode.
Yeah, weirdly, I feel kind of like energy. I'm psyched to go back to play The Last of Us Part 2.
Interesting.
I was going to say Parasite Eve II. I would say my condolences.
That's like the one thing I've learned from doing these podcasts is at the end of every recording, no matter how long it is, it could be 20 minutes or 30, like 3 hours. I feel exhausted.
You know what it is? I don't have a lot of people to discuss video games with outside of like the Overblood group. So like being able to sit down and talk to people where I could make a stupid reference like, oh, the blonde girl is Sherry Birkin. Yeah.
This is the group to get that joke.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot of fun. So it's kind of energizing to be able to talk to people that are into the same sort of things you are, and especially with what's going on right now, because the only other thing I do is play hockey, and I sure as hell can't do that. It's nice to be able to talk to somebody that's into your hobby. So this was really cool, and kind of was able to speak intelligently about some stuff that I'm into.
Glad you feel that way. And glad hockey's coming back on July 30th.
Right.
All right. And then I also want to give an awesome shout out to our awesome intro, courtesy of Bobby, a.k.a. Mike Stoney from ZP Bite the Bullet. Song of the Cool Kid Squad. So definitely check him out on YouTube. And you might hear his voice in a couple episodes in the future here. So
I think that one was backwards, but I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I have it written down, but I don't look at it. I just say it.
Well,
I've
that's
said it over
I
100
think
times.
you wrote it down then.
I had written down somewhere. Yes, I found it by accident when I was going through a notebook. I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote this down. And I just kept going. I don't read it. And also, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where I'm constantly posting new images and new things about what's going on with the upcoming episodes that we do and get people excited. And I mentioned giveaways that no one listens to me about on there too, so you definitely check that out. And I think that's all I need to say, because I have to edit this. That's all I need to say.
It's not the longest episode.
No, but it's a fucking long one.
It's up there.
I just recorded a 3-hour episode yesterday about Captain America Winter Soldier, and I recorded a 2.5-hour episode about Parasite Eve II, so it's like, yeah.
This was longer than it needed to be.
Yes, it was. Just like the game.
It should have been a 5-minute episode of us just all going,
Fuck it.
That's about, yeah. All right, so we will see you guys all next week. Bye, everybody. Oh, and check out episode 23, Parasite Eve I. That's a good game. Listen to that episode. Good episode. I had to get that out there one more time. I got to plug myself one more time to myself. That's what I do.
Yeah,
right.
Plugging is the powerhouse of the podcast. So.
Work for us. I mean, I go in groups and I post for questions. I'm like, if somebody will comment, hey, did you listen to the show? It's like, I'm already subscribed, buddy. I feel like Arnold and Hey Arnold trying to sell watches to people. Like, hey, you should buy a watch. I already have 2. Oh,
that's a very specific reference.
I know it is. Some people got it. Somebody got it. All right, I'm done. Bye, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.